Hello! I'm sorry for being a bit late there. I spilled my water and had to go grab more, but it's okay. It's okay, I got a water bottle. I got a water bottle. Hello there. Hello there. How are you today, chat? How are you today? How are you today? I scared you. I scared you. Pippa has water. I have water. Ha! Hear that? That's the sound of water. Non-carbonated beverage. You triggered your dogs. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, not the baby bottles. Please, that's a meme from the last stream, okay? It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. Oh, and I have the bottle of water here, so now I can explain what it is. It's great value. Hydrate alkaline water, 9.5 pH or higher. Purified water with electrolytes for taste. I got it for free, so I don't care. I don't care if it's a scam. Bravest J, thank you for becoming a big bee. Did you make sure to bring snacks that weren't made by Purina? You know what? I'm gonna smack you upside the head. And how much sugar? No sugar. No sugar. You just made me double check. 0 calories. 0 fat. 0 sodium. 0 carbs. 0 protein. Because it's just water. It's just water. This is the sound of water. Did you use Mio? I did not use Mio. How's your tooth, Pippa? My tooth has been a lot better. It was only really bad. Creepy. It's only bad when I'm outside because it's been pretty cold out. It's been pretty chilly out. So if I open my mouth while I'm outside, the cold hits it and it hurts pretty bad. But other than that, when I'm just inside the house, it just doesn't hurt anymore, which is so nice. It's so nice. Unless I sleep with my mouth open, and then that hurts. But Tyler, thank you for becoming a big PP. Great value, Walmart Rabbit. Great to hear you're drinking better though. Well, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you. What about the tooth you chipped from bacon? That one hasn't hurt at all. It scared me a lot when it chipped, but it hasn't been hurting. So, Iron Nutter, thank you for the $2. Proud of you, Pippa. Well, thank you. Well, thank you, thank you. Sarcastic Madman, thank you for becoming a big PP. Thank you, thank you. Alright, bro, dinner's ready. Eat up and make enough for everyone. Okay, I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. So this is the Call of Cthulhu OST. Hopefully it's not copyrighted. It's game music. I shouldn't get in trouble, right? A tad loud. Let me turn down a little bit more. Now it's like super quiet. How about that? What is this music? The Call of Cthulhu OST. Germa viewers are in the walls. It's 5 degrees here now. Oh my god. Pippa, you must say a prayer beforehand. Rebuke the demons from this book. Oh, what prayer should I say? Athena, what prayer should I say? I can't wait for tonight's DMCA.
Almost there.
Whoa. Oh, the voices. Holy rolls! Thank you for the $5. Your water may be basic, but at least you're a base. Well, thank you. Based on what? Not the banana balls. Pippers, why do you have your PDFs in light mode? Do you read like this? This isn't a PDF. This is off the website. Stream update your dono. Hold on 1 second. I'll check it. I will check it. I will check the stream moments. Let me log in. Oh, I logged into the wrong account. Ah. Most, if not all, of Lovecraft is public domain. I think it all is, isn't it? I love you, Pippa. Say Orpha. I love you, Asena Bambino. Okay. Oh,
there's
the
guys
voices.
coming to unload.
Chat, we shall rebuke the demons. We shall rebuke the demons from this book.
Welcome to Darkwater Island, Mr. Pierce.
We shall not go insane like Lovecraft.
Thank you, Captain Fitzgerald.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. We are safe. We are safe. Okay, I think it's safe to end poll. So the second most voted was Nyarlathotep. Not Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep. Amen. Chat needs an exorcism. Chat does need an exorcism. Joseph Dan, thank you for the 333. Folded down ears on your blanket. Cute. Well, thank you. Fuzurka, thank you for the $20. Would you mind making a toast to insert sad story? Sad story protag would have appreciated it. Sorry for being a pity party, but insert name here would have loved it. From Woody Remark. Oh. Sad story protagonist just died. Let's go! Great, now my pet goes left me. I'm sorry, Cold Roller. I'm sorry, you shouldn't keep pet demons anyway, though. Sadly, chat's demons are terminal. Donald Irving, thank you for the $10. There's a song by a guy called Aviators named Can You Hear It? I think it was inspired by the story. I'm not certain if you can listen to it on stream, but I recommend it. Well, I will go check it out after stream then, Donald. I don't think I can listen to it on stream, but I will go check it out. You forgot, for thine is the kingdom, and the power and the glory forever and ever, which I think is the old-timey way of identifying witches. Oh. Daddy Jim, thank you for the $1. Some of these names are gonna be pretty hard to pronounce with that lisp of yours. Gambate! I don't have a lisp. Are the alerts not working at all? Oh wait, I think I accidentally turned them off. I think I accidentally turned off alerts. Okay, there we go. Let's try now. No? Still not working? Oh, that won't work. I don't know why, it's so finicky sometimes. Lisp! I don't have a lisp! I have no lisp! Because I can say my S's! What do you know about Lovecraft's cat? Spoiled dragon, I swear to God. I swear. Don't even start. Okay. I hope Pippa never admits to the lisp. Well, I could never admit to it because I don't have one. I could never admit to the lisp because I don't have one. You guys bully me. But there is no lisp. So who's the real dum-dum? It's you, chat. It's you for thinking there's a lisp when there isn't one. Okay, now let me adjust this. And we shall start reading. I'm gonna try and keep tangents to a minimum. We'll see how well that goes. What would he name his cat? What? What would Lovecraft name his cat girl? I don't know. I have a rough idea. Brimblow, thank you for the $5. Good luck getting through the rest of this with your lisp. I believe in you. I don't have a lisp. Oh my god. Okay. Well. Volume good? Background music all good, chat? Is everything all good? Shall we start reading? If Lovecraft had a rabbit, it would be Peckle Man. Secret Seeker, thank you for becoming a big pee. Comfy time? Alright, let's go. BGM, can you hear it or is it too quiet? Hopefully it's fine. Alright. What background music? You can't hear it? You guys can't hear the background music? I guess right now it's a little extra quiet. Is it still quiet? Turn it up a little bit. Is that better? Audio balancing will be the death of me. Okay. Lovecraft's Cat Girl, thank you for the 333. Say my name. Okay, Lovecraft's Cat Girl. Alright, The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. On July 16th, 1923, I moved into 𝐿. Oh god, my eye immediately started itching. Hold on. Off to a bad start. Don't worry. I have this. Let me just rub my eyes. Believe in me, chat. Believe in the me that believes in the eyes that don't itch. I even took a Claritin to make sure my eyes wouldn't itch, and then I still itched anyways. It's like the second I begin talking, and I don't know why. I don't know what about talking. I guess somebody said it might be a hydration thing, but like, I don't know. Happy birthday, Pippa! It's not my birthday, but thank you, Phoenix On, for the $2. Yeah. It's nerves? You think it might be nerves? I guess I do get a little anxious before stream. I always get pretty anxious before stream. Streaming is kind of like showering. It's like leading up to it, I don't want to do it, but then once I'm actually streaming, I'm so happy I don't want to stop, you know? Berserker, thank you for the $5 for the dancing pudding fun, not the dancing gun fun. Lemon Emperor. Oh, well thank you, Berserker, for the $5. Just don't be anxious, it's not my birthday! Okay. I think we're good. Anna, thank you for the 333. Reading! Save me, Pipper Man! Alright. Okay. The Rats in the Walls by H.P. Lovecraft. On July 16th, 1923, I moved into 𝐿 Priory after the last workman had finished his labors. The restoration had been a stupendous task, for little had remained of the deserted pile but a shell-like ruin. Yet because it had been the seat of my ancestors, I let no expense deter me. The place had not been inhabited since the reign of James I, when a tragedy of intensely hideous, though largely unexplained, nature had struck down the master, 5 of his children, and several servants, and driven forth, under a cloud of suspicion and terror, the 3rd son, my lineal progenitor, and the only survivor of the abhorred line. With their sole heir denounced as the murderer, the estate had reverted to the crown, nor had the accused man made any attempt to exculpate himself or regain his property. Shaken by some horror greater than that of conscience or the law, and expressing only a frantic wish to exclude the ancient edifice from his sight and memory, Walter de la Poire, 11th Baron 𝐿, fled to Virginia, and there founded the family which by the next century had been known as the de la Poire. 𝐿 Priory had remained untenanted, though later allotted to the estates of the Norris family and much studied because of its peculiarly composite architecture. I feel like my reading is off. Hold on one second. I feel like my reading is a little bit off. Like, I feel like I'm just saying the words. They don't really have any meaning in my brain right now. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Pippa, please don't say the cat's name out loud. I don't want to get caught. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. No thoughts, head empty, yeah. 𝐿 Priory had remained untenanted, though later allotted to the estates of the Norris family and much studied because of its peculiarly composite architecture. An architecture involving Gothic towers resting on a Saxon or Romanesque substructure, whose foundation in turn was of still earlier order or blend of orders, Roman and even Druidic, or native Cymric, if legends speak truly. The foundation was a very singular thing, being emerged on one side with the solid limestone of the precipice, from whose brink the priory overlooked a desolate valley 3 miles west of the village of Anchester. Architects and antiquarians loved to examine this strange relic of forgotten centuries, but the country folk hated it. They had hated it hundreds of years before when my ancestors lived there, and they hated it now, with the moss and mold of abandonment on it. I had not been a day in Anchester before I knew I came of an accursed house, and this week workmen have blown up 𝐿 Priory and are busy obliterating the traces of its foundations. John Smith, thank you for the $2. The bare statistics of my ancestry I had always known together with the fact that my first American forebear had come to the colonies under a strange cloud. Of details, however, I had been kept wholly ignorant through the policy of reticence, always maintained by the Delapores. Unlike our planter neighbors, we seldom boasted of crusading ancestors or other medieval and Renaissance heroes. Nor was any kind of tradition handed down except what may have been recorded in the sealed envelope left before the Civil War by every squire to his eldest son for posthumous opening. The glories we cherished were those achieved since the migration, the glories of a proud and honorable, yet somewhat reserved and unsocial Virginia line. So, Kitty, thanks for the $1. Yeah, Virginia gang, where you at? During the war, our fortunes were extinguished, and our whole existence changed changed by the burning of Carfax, our home on the banks of the James. My grandfather, advanced in years, had perished in that incendiary outrage, and with him the envelope that bound us all to the past. I can recall that fire today as I saw it then at the age of 7, with the Federal soldiers shouting, the women screaming, and the blank howling and praying. My father was in the army, defending Richmond, and after many formalities, my mother and I were passed through the lines to join him. When the war ended, we all moved north, whence my mother had come, and I grew to manhood, middle age, and ultimate wealth as a stolid Yankee. Oh, stream is lagging? Stream okay? All good? Oh, okay. Should I reread it? Start from the beginning. Alright, I'll just continue. My father died in 1904, but without any message to leave. Wait. No, I missed an entire paragraph. Wait. Neither my father nor I ever knew what our hereditary envelope had contained, and as I merged into the grayness of Massachusetts business life, I lost all interest in the mysteries which evidently lurked far back in my family tree. Had I suspected their nature, how gladly I would have left 𝐿 Priory to its moths, bats, and cobwebs. My father died in 1904, but without any message to leave me, or to my only child, Alfred, a motherless boy of 10. It was this boy who reversed the order of family information, for although I could give him only jesting conjectures about the past, he wrote me of some very interesting ancestral legends when the late war took him to England in 1917 as an aviation officer. Apparently, the Delapores had a colorful and perhaps sinister history, for a friend of my son's, Captain Edward Norris of the Royal Flying Corps, dwelt near the family seat at Anchester, and related some pleasant superstitions which few novelists could equal for wildness and incredibility. Norris himself, of course, did not take them seriously, but they amused my son and made good material for his letters to me. It was this legendary which definitely turned my attention to my transatlantic heritage, and made me resolve to purchase and restore the family seat which Norris shewed to Alfred in its picturesque desertion, and offered to get for him at a surprisingly reasonable figure, since his own uncle was the present owner. Shut up, chat, stop like you're following. It's Eagle, thank you for becoming a big peepee. I bought 𝐿 Priory in 1918, but was almost immediately distracted from my plans of restoration by the return of my son as a maimed invalid. Damn. During the 2 years that he lived, I thought of nothing but his care, having even placed my business under the direction of partners. In 1921, as I found myself bereaved and nameless, a retired manufacturer no longer young, I resolved to divert my remaining years with my new possession. Visiting Anchester in December, I was entertained by Captain Norris, a plump, amiable young man who had thought much of my son, and secured his assistance in gathering plans and anecdotes to guide in the coming restoration. 𝐿 Priory itself I saw without emotion, a jumble of tottering medieval ruins covered with lichens and honeycombed with rooks' nests, perched perilously upon a precipice, and denuded of floors or other interior features, save for the stone walls of the separate towers. Plump. My son had told me that he was somewhat avoided during his visits because he was a 𝐿, and I now found myself subtly ostracized for a like reason until I convinced the peasants how little I knew of my heritage. Even then, they sullenly disliked me, so that I had to collect most of the village traditions through the mediation of Norris. What the people could not forgive, perhaps, was that I had come to restore a symbol so abhorrent to them, for, rationally or not, they viewed 𝐿 Priory as nothing less than a haunt of fiends and werewolves. Oh, lichens. Lichens. Like the moss. Like the squibbly moss. I skipped the paragraph? I have mild Pipkin. Which paragraph? Oh, this one. Fuck! Get closer to the screen. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm having some trouble focusing today. I'm sorry. As I gradually recovered the image of the edifice as it had been when my ancestor left it over the 3 centuries before, I began to hire workmen for the reconstruction. In every case, I was forced to go outside to the immediate locality, for the Anchester villagers had an almost unbelievable fear and hatred of the place. The sentiment was so great that it was sometimes communicated to the outside laborers, causing numerous desertions, whilst its scope appeared to include both the priory and its ancient family. This is audiobook quality, shut up. My son had told me he was somewhat avoided during his visits because he was a 𝐿, and I now found myself subtly ostracized for a like reason until I convinced the peasants how little I knew of my heritage. Even then, they sullenly disliked me, so that I had to collect most of the village traditions through the mediation of Norris. What the people could not forgive, perhaps, was that I had come to restore a symbol so abhorrent to them, for, rationally or not, they viewed 𝐿 Priory as nothing less than a haunt of fiends and werewolves. There we go. Sorry. Piecing together the tales which Norris collected for me and supplementing them with the accounts of several savants who had studied the ruins, I deduced that 𝐿 Priory stood on the site of a prehistoric temple, a druidical or anti-druidical thing which must have been contemporary with Stonehenge. That indescribable rites had been celebrated there, few doubted, and there were unpleasant tales of the transference of these rites into the Sibyl worship which the Romans had introduced. Inscriptions still visible in the subcellar bore such unmistakable letters as Div, Ops, Magna, Mat, sign of the Magna Mater, whose dark worship was once mainly forbidden to Roman citizens. Anchester had been the camp of the 3rd Augustan Legion, as many remains attest, and it was said that the Temple of Sibyl was splendid and thronged with worshippers who performed nameless ceremonies at the bidding of a... Fuck, I know this word. Phrygian? Fuck. Phrygian? I've seen this word. I know this word. Phrygian? Fuck. Phrygian priest. We'll go with Phrygian. Tales added that the fall of the real change... Oh, Phrygian, fuck. Phrygian priest. Tales added that the fall of the old religion did not end the orgies at the temple, but that the priest lived on in the new faith without real change. Likewise was it said that the rites did not vanish with the Roman power, and that certain among the Saxons added to what remained of the temple, and gave it the essential outline it subsequently preserved, making it the center of a cult feared through half of the Heptarchy. About 1000 AD, the place is mentioned in a chronicle as being a substantial stone priory housing a strange and powerful monastic order and surrounded by extensive gardens which needed no walls to exclude a frightened populace. It was never destroyed by the Danes, though after the Norman conquest it must have declined tremendously, since there was no impediment when Henry III granted the site to my ancestor, Gilbert de la Poire, 1st Baron Exum, in 1261. Refrigerator. Of my family before this date there is no evil report, but something strange must have happened then. In one chronicle there is reference to a de la Poire as cursed of God. In 1307, whilst the village legendary had nothing but evil and frantic fear to tell of the castle that went up on the foundations of the old temple and priory. The fireside tales were of the most grisly description, all the ghastlier because of their frightened reticence.
Reticence.
What's this mean? Reticence. Minutes on, I give it $2. Reticence and cloudy evasiveness. They represented my ancestors as a race of hereditary demons, whom besides Gilles de Retz and the Marquis de Sade, Marquis de Sade, would seem the various tyros, and hinted whisperingly at their responsibility for the occasional disappearance of villagers through several generations. Oh, Marquis de Sade. God. Use easier English, motherfucker. I have Pipkin. The worst characters, apparently, were the barons and their direct heirs. At least most was whispered about these. If of healthier inclinations, it was said, an heir would early and mysteriously die to make way for another more typical scion. There seemed to be an inner cult in the family, presided over by the head of the house, and sometimes closed except to a few members. Temperament, rather than ancestry, was evidently the basis of this cult, for it was entered by several who married into the family. Lady Margaret Trevor from Cornwall, wife of Godfrey, the second son of the 5th Baron, became a favourite bane of children all over the countryside, and the demon heroine of a particularly horrible old ballad not yet extinct near the Welsh border, preserved in balladry too, though not illustrating the same point, is the hideous tale of Lady Mary de la Poire, who shortly after her marriage to the Earl of Shrewsfield was killed by him and his mother, both of the slayers being absolved and blessed by the priest to whom they confessed what they had dared not repeat to the world. These myths and ballads, typical as they were of crude superstition, repelled me greatly. Their persistence and their application to so long a line of my ancestors were especially annoying, whilst the imputations of monstrous habits proved unpleasantly reminiscent of the one known scandal of my immediate forebears, the case of my cousin, young Randolph de la Poire of Carfax, who went among the blanks and became a voodoo priest after he returned from the Mexican War. I was much less disturbed by the vaguer. I was much less disturbed by the vaguer tales of wails and howlings in the barren windswept valley beneath the limestone cliff, of the graveyard stenches after the spring rains, of the floundering, squealing white thing on which Sir John Clay's horse had trod one night in a lonely field, and of the servant who had gone mad at what he saw in the priory in the full light of day. These things were hackneyed spectral lore, and I was at that time a pronounced skeptic. Why are you spelling like that? The accounts of vanished peasants were less to be dismissed, though not especially significant in view of medieval custom. Prying curiosity meant death, and more than one severed head had been publicly shown on the bastions, now effaced, around 𝐿 Priory. I'm proud of you for trying, Pippa. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. A few of the tales were exceedingly picturesque, and made me wish I had learned more of comparative mythology in my youth. There was, for instance, the belief that a legion of bat-winged devils kept witches' Sabbath each night at the Priory, a legion whose sustenance might explain the disproportionate abundance of coarse vegetables harvested in the vast gardens. And most vivid of all, there was the dramatic epic of the rats, the scampering army of obscene vermin, which had burst forth from the castle 3 months after the tragedy that doomed it to desertion. The lean, filthy, ravenous army, which had swept all before it and devoured fowl, cats, dogs, hogs, sheep, and even 2 hapless human beings before its fury was spent. Around that unforgettable rodent army, a whole separate cycle of myths revolves, for it scattered among the village homes and brought curses and horrors in its train. Such was the lore that assailed me as I pushed to completion, with an elderly obstinacy, the work of restoring my ancestral home. It must not be imagined for a moment that these tales formed my principal psychological environment. On the other hand, I was constantly praised and encouraged by Captain Norris and the antiquarians who surrounded and aided me. When the task was done, over 2 years after its commencement, I viewed the great rooms, wainscoted walls, vaulted ceilings, mullioned windows, and broad staircases, with a pride which fully compensated for the prodigious expense of the restoration. Every attribute of the Middle Ages was cunningly reproduced, and the new parts blended perfectly with the original walls and foundations. The seat of my fathers was complete, and I looked forward to redeeming at last the local fame of the line which ended in me. I would reside here permanently, and prove that a de la Poire, for I had adopted again the original spelling of the name, need not be a fiend. My comfort was perhaps augmented by the fact that although 𝐿 Priory was medievally fitted, its interior was in truth wholly new and free from old vermin and old ghosts alike. Shut up, chat. If in the lore edition the cat's been renamed, guess what, chat? I went in here with Inspect Element. Fuck you, chat. Fuck you, chat. I went in here with Inspect Element. As I had said, I moved in on July 16th, 1923. My household consisted of 7 servants and 9 cats, of which latter species I am particularly fond. My eldest cat, Kitty Man, was 7 years old and had come with me from my home in Bolton, Massachusetts. The others I had accumulated whilst living with Captain Norris's family during the restoration of the Priory. For 5 days our routine proceeded with the utmost placidity, my time being spent mostly in codification of old family data. I had now obtained some very circumstantial accounts of the final tragedy and flight of Walter de la Poire, which I conceived to be the most probable contents of the hereditary paper lost in the fire at Carfax. It appeared that my ancestor was accused, with much reason, of having killed all the other members of this household, except 4 servant confederates, in their sleep, about 2 weeks after a shocking discovery which changed his whole demeanor, but which, except by implication, he disclosed to no one save perhaps the servants who assisted him and afterward fled beyond reach. But can you press F5? No, I cannot press F5. No, I cannot press F5. Raise SJ, thank you for the $5. I can't believe Pippa died. Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up, Jen. This deliberate slaughter, which included a father, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters, was largely condoned by the villagers, and so slackly treated by the law that its perpetrator escaped honored, unharmed, and undisguised to Virginia. The general whispered sentiment being that he had purged the land of an immemorial curse. What discovery had prompted an act so terrible, I could scarcely even conjecture. Walter de la Poire must have known for years the sinister tales about his family, so that his material could have given him no fresh impulse. Had he then witnessed some appalling ancient rite, or stumbled upon something frightful and revealing symbol in the priory or its vicinity? He was reputed to have been a shy, gentle youth in England. In Virginia he seemed not so much hard or bitter as harassed and apprehensive. He was spoken of in the diary of another gentleman adventurer, Francis Harley of Bellevue, as a man of unexampled justice, honor, and delicacy. On July 22nd occurred the first incident, which, though lightly dismissed at the time, takes on a preternatural significance in relation to later events. It was so simple as to be almost negligible, and could not possibly have been noticed under the circumstances, for it must be recalled that since I was in a building practically fresh and new except for the walls, and surrounded by a well-balanced staff of servitors, apprehension would have been absurd despite the locality. What I afterward remembered is merely this, that my old black cat, whose moods I know so well, was undoubtedly alert and anxious, to an extent wholly out of keeping with his natural character. He roved from room to room, restless and disturbed, and sniffed constantly about the walls which formed part of the old Gothic structure. I realize how trite this sounds, yet the inevitable dog in the ghost story, which always growls before his master sees the sheeted figure, yet I cannot consistently suppress it. Shut the fuck up, chat. Shut the fuck up, chat. The following day, a servant complained of restlessness among all the cats in the house. He came to me in my study, a lofty west room on the 2nd story, with groined arches, black oak paneling, and a triple Gothic window overlooking the limestone and desolate valley. And even as he spoke, I saw the jetty form of Kitty Man, creeping along the west wall and scratching at the new panels which overlaid the ancient stone. I told the man that there must be some singular odor or emanation from the old stonework, imperceptible to human senses, but affecting the delicate organs of cats even through the new woodwork. This I truly believed, and when the fellow suggested the presence of mice or rats, I mentioned that there had been no rats there for 300 years, and that even the field mice of the surrounding country could hardly be found in these high walls, where they had never been known to stray. That afternoon I called on Captain Norris, and he assured me that it would be quite incredible for field mice to infest the priory in such a sudden and unprecedented fashion. Shut the fuck up, chat. I misspelled it. It's supposed to be Kitty Man. Oh, did the music end? This is really quiet. There we go. That night, dispensing as usual with a valet, I retired in the West Tower chamber, which I had chosen as my own, reached from the study by a stone staircase and short gallery, the former partly ancient, the latter entirely restored. This room was circular, very high and without wainscoting, being hung with arras which I had myself chosen in London. Seeing that Kitty Man was with me, I shut the heavy Gothic door and retired by the light of the electric bulbs, which so cleverly counterfeited candles. Finally switching off the light and sinking on the carved and canopied four-poster, with the venerable cat in his accustomed place across my feet, I did not draw the curtains, but gazed out at the narrow north window which I faced. There was a suspicion of aurora in the sky, and the delicate traceries of the window were pleasantly silhouetted. Should I name it Kuroneko? Should I call it Kuroneko or should I call it Kitty Man? At some time I must have fallen quietly asleep, for I recall a distinct sense of leaving strange dreams. When the cat started violently from his placid position, I saw him in the faint auroral glow, head strained forward, 4 feet on my ankles, and hind feet stretched behind. He was looking intensely at a point on the wall somewhat west of the window, a point which to my eye had nothing to mark it, but toward which all my attention was now directed. And as I watched, I knew that Kitty Man or Chronicle. I know how to Mr. Shut the fuck up. I knew that Kuroneko-chan was not vainly excited. Whether the arse actually moved, I cannot say. I think it did, very slightly. But what I can swear to it, too, is that behind it I heard a low, distinct scurrying, as of rats or mice. In a moment the cat had jumped bodily on the screening tapestry, bringing the affected section to the floor with his weight and exposing a damp, ancient wall of stone, patched here and there by the restorers, and devoid of any trace of rodent prowlers. Kuroneko raced up and down the floor. One moment. Let me just make sure. Let me just make sure that's not management. Even bird prisoners like, oh shit, Pippa! Oh shit! Hold on. We good. We good. Okay. Oh. Wait. Hold on. We're all good. We're all good, chat. We're all good. Stop giving the word power and say, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Where was I? What? Okay, breaking the affected section of the floor with his weight. Kuroneko raced up and down the floor by this part of the wall, clawing the fallen arras and seemingly trying, at times, to insert a paw between the wall and the oaken floor. He found nothing, and after a time returned warily to his place across my feet. I had not moved, but I did not sleep again that night. Answer what I don't get. In the morning I questioned all the servants, and found that none of them had noticed anything unusual, save that the cook remembered the actions of a cat which had rested on her windowsill. This cat had howled at some unknown hour of the night, awaking the cook in time for her to see him dart purposefully out of the open door down the stairs. I drowsed away the noontime, and in the afternoon called again on Captain Morris, who became exceedingly interested in what I told him. The odd incidents, so slight yet so curious, appealed to his sense of the picturesque, and elicited from him a number of reminiscences of the local ghostly lore. We were genuinely perplexed at the presence of rats, and Norris lent me some traps in Paris green, which I had the servants place in strategic localities when I returned. I retired early, being very sleepy, but was harassed by dreams of the most horrible sort. I seemed to be looking down from an immense height upon a twilit grotto, knee-deep with filth, where a white-bearded demon swineherd drove about with his staff a flock of fungus. Flabby beasts, whose appearance filled me with unutterable loathing. Then, as the swineherd paused and nodded over his task, a mighty swarm of rats rained down on the stinking abyss and fell to the devouring beasts and man alike. It's just weird, I feel like the music keeps getting quieter. Twilight. From this terrific vision, I was abruptly awakened by the motions of 𝐿𝐴𝐿, who had been sleeping as usual across my feet. This time I did not have to question the source of his snarls and hisses, and of the fear which made him sink his claws into my ankle, unconscious of their effect. For on every side of the chamber the walls were alive with nauseous sound, the verminous slithering of ravenous, gigantic rats. There was now no aura to show the state of the arras, the fallen section which had been replaced, but I was not too frightened to switch on the light. I missed one? What? What did I miss? Am I missing paragraphs? Song of Saya, this is 𝐂𝐴𝐿𝐿. I don't know if that's the same thing. Control F to find the Miss Kitty Mitten. Did I? Oops, oh well. Don't refresh? I'm not gonna refresh. I'm not gonna Control F and type anything in either. As the bulbs leapt into radiance, I saw a hideous shaking all over the tapestry, causing the somewhat peculiar designs to execute a singular dance of death. This motion disappeared almost at once, and the sound with it. Springing out of bed, I poked at the arras with a long handle of warming pan that rested near, and lifted one God, now it's fucking around! What the fuck? Fucking background music, God fucking damn it! And lifted one section to see what lay beneath. There was nothing but the patched stone wall, and even the cat had lost his tense realization of abnormal presences. When I examined the circular trap that had been placed in the room, I found all of the openings sprung, though no trace remained of what had been caught and escaped. Further sleep was out of the question, so, lighting a candle, I opened the door and went out in the gallery toward the stairs to my study, 𝐿𝐴𝐿 following at my heels. Before we had reached the stone steps, however, the cat darted ahead of me and vanished down the ancient flight. As I descended the stairs myself, I became suddenly aware of sounds in the great room below, sounds of a nature which could not be mistaken. The oak-paneled walls were alive with rats, scampering and milling, whilst 𝐿𝐴𝐿 was racing about with the fury of a baffled hunter. Reaching the bottom, I switched on the light, which did not this time cause the noise to subside. The rats continued their riot, stampeding with such force and distinctness that I could finally assign to their motions a definite direction. These creatures, in numbers apparently inexhaustible, were engaged in one stupendous migration from inconceivable heights to some depth conceivably or inconceivably below. I now heard steps in the corridor, and in another moment 2 servants pushed open the massive door. They were searching the house for some unknown source of disturbance, which had thrown all the cats into a snarling panic and caused them to plunge precipitately down several flights of stairs and squat, yowling, before the closed door to the cellar. I asked them if they had heard the rats, and they replied in the negative, and when I turned to call their attention to the sounds in the panels, I realized that the noise had ceased. With the 2 men, I went down to the door of the sub-cellar, but found the cats already dispersed. Later I resolved to explore the crypt below, but for the present I merely made a round of the traps. All were sprung, yet all were tenantless. Satisfying myself that no one had heard the rats save the felines and me, I sat in my study till morning, thinking profoundly and recalling every scrap of legend I had unearthed concerning the building I inhabited. Let me just check again. No response. Okay. There's big stuff happening, chat. There's big stuff happening, chat. There's big stuff happening, chat. And when it all gets announced, you're gonna be like, oh my god, that's what those pings were. That's what Pippa was getting pinged about. Oh my god. You better get hyped, chat. I can't tell you what it is yet, but you guys better get hyped. You guys better get hyped. I slept some in the forenoon, leaning back in the one comfortable. Well, now I'm curious what you guys are saying. Oh my god! Leak it! No, I can't leak it. I can't leak it. Okay. I slept some in the forenoon, leaning back in the one comfortable library chair which my medieval plan of furnishing could not banish. Later, I telephoned to Captain Norris, who came over and helped me explore the subcellar. Absolutely nothing untoward was found, although we could not repress a thrill at the knowledge that this vault was built by Roman hands. Every low arch and massive pillar was Roman, not the debased Romanesque of the bungling Saxons, but the severe and harmonious classicism of the age of the Caesars. Indeed, the walls abounded with the inscriptions familiar to the antiquarians who had repeatedly explored the place, things like 𝑃 prop, temp, dona, and 𝐿 pontifi, Atis. The reference to Atis made me shiver, for I had read Catullus and knew something of the hideous rites of the Eastern god, whose worship was so mixed with that of Cybele. Norris and I, by the light of lanterns, tried to interpret the odd and nearly effaced designs on certain irregularly rectangular blocks of stone generally held to be altars, but could make nothing of them. We remembered that one pattern, a sort of rayed sun, was held by students to imply a non-Roman origin, suggesting that these altars had merely been adopted by the Roman priests from some older and perhaps aboriginal temple on the same site. On one of these blocks were some brown stains which made me wonder. The largest in the center of the room had certain features on the upper surface which indicated its connection with the fire. Probably burnt offerings. Such were sights in that crypt before whose doors the cats had howled, and where Norris and I now determined to pass the night. Couches were brought down by the servants, who were told not to mind any nocturnal shut the fuck up, Grinsko. Nocturnal actions of the cats, and Kitty Man was admitted as much for help as for companionship. We decided to keep the great oak door, a modern replica with slits for ventilation, tightly closed, and with this attended to, we retired with lanterns still burning to await whatever might occur. Someone shat on the altar. The vault was very deep in the foundations of the priory, and undoubtedly far down on the face of the beating limestone cliff overlooking the waste valley. That it had been the goal of the scuffling and unexplainable rats, I could not doubt, though why I could not tell. As we lay there expectantly, I found my vigil occasionally mixed with half-formed dreams, from which the uneasy motions of the cat across my feet would rouse me. These dreams were not wholesome, but horribly like the one I had the night before. I saw again the twilit grotto, and the swineherd with his unmentionable fungus beasts wallowing in filth. And as I looked at these things, they seemed nearer and more distinct. So distinct that I could almost observe their features. Then I observed the flabby features of one of them, and awaked with such a scream that Kitty Man startled up. Where's my mic? Ah! Whilst Captain Norris, who had not slept, laughed considerably. Norris might have laughed more, or perhaps less, had he known what it was that made me scream. But I did not remember myself till later. Ultimate horror often paralyzes memory, in a merciful way. Reminder that Lovecraft was obsessed with his British heritage, but he wasn't nearly as British as he thought. Damn. Has anyone else had that? Has anyone else thought they were of like a specific descent and then it turned out you were not and you were just like, what? My eyes can't stay open. Go to sleep, Pocket. Go to sleep. No? I want to take a DNA test. But I don't know if the results work for Piggy's World. Why did she get quieter? Am I that much quieter? I turned my mic down a little bit. Wow, 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 wow. Pippa, turn up your volume. Is this better? Is this better? Wow, 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 wow. Yes? Okay. Norris waked me when the phenomena began. Out of the same frightful dream, I was called by his gentle shaking and his urging to listen to the cats. Indeed, there was much to listen to, for beyond the closed door at the head of the stone steps was a veritable nightmare of feline yelling and clawing, whilst Kitty Man, unmindful of his kindred outside, was running excitedly around the bare stone walls, in which I heard the same babble of scurrying rats that had troubled me the night before. An acute terror now rose within me, for here were anomalies which nothing normal could well explain. These rats, if not creatures of a madness which I shared with the cats alone, must be burrowing and sliding in Roman walls I had thought to be of solid limestone blocks, unless perhaps the action of water through more than 17 centuries had eaten winding tunnels which rodent bodies had worn clear and ample. But even so, the spectral horror was no less, for if these were living vermin, why did not Norris hear their disgusting commotion? Why did he urge me to watch Kitty Man and listen to the cats outside? And why did he guess wildly and vaguely at what could have aroused them? Does he literally say the cat's name this much in the story? Yeah, he does. By the time I had managed to tell him as rationally as I could what I thought I was hearing, my ears gave me the last fading impression of the scurrying, which had retreated still downward, far underneath this deepest of subcellars, till it seemed as if the whole cliff below were riddled with questing rats. Norris was not as skeptical as I had anticipated, but instead seemed profoundly moved. He motioned to me to notice that the cats at the door had ceased their clamor, as if giving up the rats for lost, whilst Kitty Man had a burst of renewed restlessness, and was clawing frantically around the bottom of the large stone altar in the center of the room, which was nearer Norris's couch than mine. My fear of the unknown was at this point very great. Something astounding had occurred, and I saw that Captain Norris, a younger, stouter, and presumably more naturally materialistic man, was affected fully as much as myself, perhaps because of his lifelong and intimate familiarity with local legend. We could for the moment do nothing but watch the old black cat as he pawed with decreasing fervor at the base of the altar, occasionally looking up and mewing to me in what persuasive manner which he used when he wished me to perform some favor for him. Norris now took a lantern close to the altar and examined the place where Kitty Man was pawing. silently kneeling and scraping away the lichens of centuries which joined the massive pre-Roman block to the... Fuck. Tessellated? Hey, stop. Yeah, I have some neighbors making background noise. I'm sorry. He did not find anything, and was about to abandon his effort when I noticed a trivial circumstance which made me shudder. Even though it implied nothing more than I had already imagined, I told him of it, and we both looked at its almost imperceptible manifestation with the fixedness of fascinated discovery and acknowledgement. It was only this, that the flame of the lantern set down near the altar was slightly but certainly flickering from a draught of air which it had not before received, and which came indubitably from the crevice between the floor and altar where Norris was scraping away the lichens. You can't hear those neighbors? I'm glad. What? You hear the rats in the walls? Neighbor man. We spent the rest of the night in the brilliantly lighted study, nervously discussing what we should do next. The discovery that some vault deeper than the deepest known masonry of the Romans underlay this accursed pile, some vault unsuspected by the curious antiquarians of 3 centuries, would have been sufficient to excite us without any background of the sinister. As it was, the fascination became twofold, and we paused in doubt whether to abandon our search and quit the priory forever in superstitious caution, or to gratify our sense of adventure and brave whatever horrors might await us in the unknown depths. By morning we had compromised, and decided to go to London to gather a group of archaeologists and scientific men fit to cope with the mystery. It should be mentioned that before leaving the subcellar, we had vainly tried to move the central altar, which we now recognized as the gate to a new pit of nameless fear. What secret would open the gate? Wiser men than we would have to find. To be honest, the neighbors are almost always more noticeable to you than us. Maybe. I tried to set my audio so you guys can't hear them as well, but I'm just paranoid. I don't like having background noise. I think it's unprofessional. Not that my streams are particularly professional, but during many days in London Captain Norris and I presented our facts, conjectures, and legendary anecdotes to 5 eminent authorities, all men who could be trusted to respect any family disclosures which future explorations might develop. We found most of them little disposed to scoff, but instead intensely interested and sincerely sympathetic. It is hardly necessary to name them all, but I may say that they included Sir William Brinton, whose excavations in the Trode excited most of the world in their day. And we all took as we all took the train for Manchester, I felt myself poised on the brink of frightful revelations, a sensation symbolized by the air of mourning among the many Americans at the unexpected death of the president on the other side of the world. On the evening of August 6th, what the fuck? On the evening of August 7th, I have Pipkin. I'm sorry. Oh Lord. On the evening of August 7th, we reached Exham Priory, where the servants assured me that nothing unusual had occurred. The cats, even old Kitty Man, had been perfectly placid, and not a trap in the house had been sprung. We were to begin exploring on the following day, awaiting which I assigned well-appointed rooms to all my guests. I myself retired in my own tower chamber, with Kitty-Man across my feet. Sleep came quickly, but hideous dreams assailed me. There was a vision of a Roman feast like that of 𝐒𝐴𝐚𝐭, with a horror in a covered platter. Then came that damnable recurrent thing about the swineherd and his filthy drove in the twilight grotto. Yet when I awoke it was fully daylight, with normal sounds in the house below. The rats, living or spectral, had not troubled me, and Kitty-Man was quietly asleep. On going down, I found that the same tranquillity had prevailed elsewhere, a condition which one of the assembled savants, a fellow named Thornton, devoted to the psychic, rather absurdly laid to the fact that I had now been shown the thing which certain forces had wished to show me. God damn it. All was now ready, and at 11 a.m. our entire group of 7 men, bearing powerful electric searchlights and implements of excavation, went down to the subcellar and bolted the door behind us. Kitty-Man was with us, for the investigators found no occasion to despise his excitability, and were indeed anxious that he be present in case of obscure rodent manifestations. We noted that the Roman inscriptions and unknown altar designs only briefly, for 3 of the savants had already seen them, and we all knew their characteristics. Prime attention was paid to the momentous central altar, and within an hour Sir William Britton had caused it to tilt backward, balanced by some unknown species of counterweight. There now lay revealed such a horror as would have overwhelmed us had we not been prepared. Through a nearly square opening in the tiled floor, sprawling on a flight of stone steps so prodigiously worn that it was little more than an inclined plane at the center, was a ghastly array of human or semi-human bones. Those which retained their collocation as skeletons showed out attitudes of panic, fear, and over all were the marks of rodent gnawing. The skulls denoted nothing short of utter idiocy, cretinism, or primitive semi-apedom. Above the hellishly littered steps arched a descending passage, seemingly chiseled from the solid rock, and conducting a current of air. This current was not a sudden and noxious rush, as from a closed vault, but a cool breeze with something of freshness in it. We did not pause long, but shiveringly began to clear a passage down the steps. It was then that Sir William, examining the hewn walls, made the odd observation that the passage, according to the direction of the strokes, must have been chiseled from beneath. Shut up, Sauda. I must be very deliberate now, and choose my words. After plowing down a few steps amidst the gnawed bones, we saw that there was light ahead. Not any mystic phosphorescence, but a filtered daylight, which could not come except from unknown fissures in the cliff that overlooked the waste valley. That such fissures had escaped notice from outside was hardly remarkable, for not only in this valley wholly uninhabited, but the cliff is so high and beetling that only an aeronaut could study its face in detail. A few steps more and our breaths were literally snatched from us by what we saw, so literally that Thornton, the psychic investigator, actually fainted in the arms of the dazed man who stood behind him. Norris, his plump face utterly white and flabby, simply cried out inarticulately, whilst I think what I did was to gasp or hisp and cover my eyes. The man behind me, the only one of the party older than I, croaked the hackneyed "My God!" croaked the hackneyed "My God!" in the most cracked voice I ever heard. My tummy's rumbling. That was a part of the story, so my tummy's rumbling. Of 7 cultivated men, Only Sir William Brenton retained his composure, a thing more to his credit because he led the party and must have seen the sight first. It was a twilight grotto of enormous height, stretching away farther than any eye could see. A subterraneous world of limitless mystery and horrible suggestion. Creepy background music. There were buildings and other architectural remains. In one terrified glance, I saw a weird pattern of tumuli, a savage circle of monoliths, a low-domed Roman ruin, a sprawling Saxon pile, and an early English edifice of wood. But all these were dwarfed by the ghoulish spectacle presented by the general surface of the ground. For yards about the steps extended an insane tangle of human bones, or bones at least as human as those on the steps. These, like a foamy sea, they stretched, some fallen apart, but others wholly or partly articulated as skeletons. These latter invariably in postures of demonic frenzy, either fighting off some menace or clutching other forms with cannibal intent. When Dr. hold on, I think the background music ended. Yeah, my background. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, horrors beyond comprehension really does make Pippa hungry. Yeah. Oh god, they found the entrance to the New York City subway! Rope. When Dr. Trask, the anthropologist, stooped to classify the skulls, he found a degraded mixture which utterly baffled him. They were mostly lower than the Piltdown man in the scale of evolution, but in every case definitely human. Many were of higher grade, and a very few were skulls of supremely and sensitively developed types. All the bones were gnawed, mostly by rats, but somewhat by others of the half-human drove. Mixed with them were many tiny bones of rats, fallen members of the lethal army which closed the ancient epic. I wonder would any man among us lived and kept his sanity through that hideous day of discovery. Not Hoffman or Huysman could conceive a scene more wildly incredible, more frenetically repellent, or more gothically grotesque than the twilight grotto through which we seven staggered, each stumbling on revelation after revelation, and trying to keep for the nonce from thinking of the events which must have taken place there 300 years ago, or 1,000, or 2,000, or 10,000 years ago. It was the antechamber of hell, and poor Thornton fainted again when Trask told him that some of the skeleton things must have descended as quadrupeds through the last 20 or more generations. Horror piled on horror as we began to interpret the architectural remains. The quadruped things, with their occasional recruits from the biped class, had been kept in stone pens, out of which they must have broken in their last delirium of hunger or rat fear. There had been great herds of them, evidently fattened on the coarse vegetables, whose remains could be found as a sort of poisonous ensilage at the bottom of the huge stone bins older than Rome. I knew now why my ancestors had such excessive gardens. Would to heaven I could forget. The purpose of the herds I did not have to ask. Sir William, standing with his searchlight in the Roman ruin, translated aloud the most shocking ritual I have ever known, and told of the diet of the antediluvian cult, which the priest of 𝐶𝑯𝑨𝒀𝑃 found and mingled with their own. Norris, used as he was to the trenches, could not walk straight when he came out of the English building. It was a butcher shop and kitchen. He had expected that. But it was too much to see familiar English implements in such a place, and to read familiar English graffiti there, some as recent as 1610. I could not go in that building whose name and activities were stopped only by the dagger of my ancestor, Walter de la Poire. What I did venture to enter was the low Saxon building, whose oaken door had fallen, and there I found a terrible row of 10 stone cells with rusty bars. 3 had tenants, all skeletons of high grade, and on the bony forefinger of one I found a seal ring with my own coat of arms. Sir William found a vault with far older cells below the Roman chapel, but these cells were empty. Below them was a low crypt of cases of formally arranged bones. Some of them were bearing terrible parallel inscriptions carved in Latin, Greek, and the tongue of Phrygia. Meanwhile, Dr. Trask had opened one of the prehistoric tumuli and brought to light skulls which were slightly more human than a gorilla's, and which bore indescribable ideographic carvings. Through all this horror, my cat stalked unperturbed. Once I saw him monstrously perched atop a mountain of bones, and wondered at the secrets that might lie behind his yellow eyes. Having grasped to some slight degree the frightful revelations of this twilight area, an area so hideously foreshadowed by my recurrent dream, when we turned to that apparently boundless depth of midnight cavern where no ray of light of the cliff could penetrate. We shall never know what sightless Stygian worlds yawn beyond the little distance we went, for it was decided that such secrets are not good for mankind. But there was plenty to engross us close at hand, for we had not gone far before the searchlight showed that accursed infinity of pits in which the rats had feasted, and whose sudden lack of replenishment had driven the ravenous rodent army first to turn on the living herds of starving things, and then to burst forth from the priory in that historic orgy of devastation which the peasants will never forget. God, those carrion black pits of sawed, picked bones, and open skulls. Those nightmare chasms choked with the... Oh, come on, what the fuck? Pithecanthropoid. Okay, okay. Pithecanthropoid. That's early human, right? That's one of the early humans? Celtic, Roman, and English bones of countless unhallowed centuries. Some of them were full, and none can say how deep they had once been. Others were still bottomless to our searchlights, and peopled by unnameable fancies. Unnameable fancies. Unnameable? Yes, unnameable fancies. What I thought of the hapless rats that stumbled into such traps amidst the blackness of their quest in this grisly Tartarus. Once my foot slipped near a horribly yawning brink, and I had a moment of ecstatic fear. I must have been musing a long time, for I could not see any of the party but the plump Captain Norris. Then there came a sound from that inky, boundless, farther distance that I thought I knew, and I saw my old black cat dart past me like a winged Egyptian god, straight into the illimitable gulf of the unknown. But I was not far behind, for there was no doubt after another second. It was the eldritch scurrying of those fiend-born rats, always questing for new horrors, and determined to lead me on even unto those grinning caverns of Earth's center, where Nyarlathotep, the mad faceless god, howls blindly to the piping of two amorphous idiot flute players. My searchlight expired, but still I ran. I heard voices and yowls and echoes, but above all there gently rose that impious, insidious scurrying, gently rising as a stiff bloated corpse gently rises above an oily river that flows under endless onyx bridges to a black, putrid sea. Something bumped into me, something soft and plump. It must have been the rats, the viscous, gelatinous, ravenous army that feast on the dead and the living. Why shouldn't rats eat a delapoir, as a delapoir eats forbidden things? The war ate my boy, damn them all. And the Yanks ate Carfax with flames and burnt Grand Spire Delapoir at the secret. No, I tell you, I am not that demon swineherd in the Twilight Grotto. It was not Edward Norris's fat face on that flabby fungus thing. Who says I am a Delapoir? He lived, but my boy died. Shall a Norris hold the lands of a Delapoir? It's voodoo, I tell you. that spotted snake. Curse you, Thornton. I'll teach you to faint at what my family do. Splud, thou stinkard, I'll learn ye how to gust. Wool ye swank me, silk whis, magnamator, atis. Dia ad akidis, ad adam, agis bas, nunak ort. Donus, dolas ort, agas liat sa. Ango, That is what they say I said when they found me in the blackness after 3 hours. Found me crouching in the blackness over the plump, half-eaten body of Captain Norris, with my own cat leaping and tearing at my throat. Now they have blown up Exham Priory, taken my kitty man away from me, and shut me in this buried room at Hanwell, with fearful whispers about my heredity and experiences. Thornton is in the next room, but they prevent me from talking to him. They are trying to suppress most of the facts concerning the Priory. When I speak of poor Norris, they accuse me of a hideous thing, but they must know that I did not do it. They must know that it was the rats, slithering, scurrying rats, whose scampering will never let me sleep. The demon rats that race beyond the padding in this room and beckon me down to greater horrors than I have ever known. The rats they can never hear. The rats in the walls. And that is the entirety of the rats in the walls. I can safely say that was not my best reading. That was not my best reading, and I apologize. I am sorry, chat. Let me bring up the chat box thing again. Did I miss any donos? Neighborman, thank you for the $1. Hey Pippa, we can't hear ourselves making a racket over here. Making a racket here over your loud, funny cat story. Please keep it down. Thanks. The One True Magical, thank you for the $5. Tell me about the cat again, Mama Pipkin. Hello. Brave SJ, thank you for the $5. And Phoenix Arm, thank you for the 156. Pippa doesn't know what a fridge is. Sad. Hello. Okay, now where's... There we go. Let me refresh. Yeah, pretty good, thank you. Can you TLDR the story? My best TLDR of the story would be that a man has a family estate that... okay, let's see here. A man doesn't know much about his family ancestry, and after his son becomes disabled after the war that he goes off to, and he bonds with his son over old ancestral stories. He goes off and he buys his family estate and he has it renovated, and he begins to hear strange things in the walls at night, and he has this dream of this shepherd, a very ghastly looking shepherd. And then his cat tears down a tapestry, and they discover like a hidden passageway, to my understanding. They go down there, and which is a little unclear to me. At one point, it makes it seem like the cats are all heading downstairs, and they find a cellar that way. But I thought they found the pathway through the tapestry falling down? I don't know. Regardless, they head down there and they find an old ritual room. And in the ritual room, they also find a bunch of dead bodies? A bunch of skeletons? And to my understanding, it's these people, like they were like cannibals. They were committing strange like rituals and cannibalizing people, and that's what the dream about the shepherd was about. Is that the Delapoirs were like shepherds, and instead of like guiding sheep, they were shepherding people that they were eating. Furious, thank you for becoming a big PP. And he becomes infected with the madness of his ancestors when he goes down into the ritual room, and he goes to cannibalize and manages to cannibalize one of the other men that went down there with him. Don't judge them just because they were cannibals. Raising people as livestock who escaped and became the families outside. Wendigo psychosis, yeah. Demon worshippers, they were. They were worshipping demons and they were cannibalizing people. But it would be alright if it was consensual. Oh my god. They consent to being eaten. Shut up. Lovecraft was pretty in tune with nth dimensional life forms. Man was ahead of his time. The thing I don't understand about the talks of quadrupeds. He talks of quadruped life forms as though they're human, and it makes me wonder, like, were they, like, was that just like the position in which he found the skeletons? Like the skeletons were like locked in a quadrupedal state due to the conditions they were living in? Or was it more like devolved? And that was gonna be, those were devolved, the devolved human cattle, yeah. Generations of mutations and deformity. Okay, that's what I was gonna wonder. I think the implication is that they've been doing it for millions of years, yeah. I think the idea is that they had generated or evolved that way. They were probably captured and bred down there for centuries, creating monstrosities. Those are what we call the Dutch. Suckmod Senior, what the fuck? What the fuck? Anon, thank you for the $1. Did you sign? The worst part is, it was just the name of a cat Lovecraft was given as a young child, that he didn't even name, and he only included it in the story as a tribute to the memory of the pet he dearly loved. Thanks for the reading, Pips. Well, thank you, Anna, for the $1. Try not to judge. I try not to judge, and honestly, I do feel uncomfortable censoring the literature. Obviously, I can't just say the name of the cat. I think literature is best read in its intended form. I am not for censorship, but obviously I do have to be conscientious of what I do, so. And I'm very glad that stuff like the name of this man's cat has not tarnished the reputation of his works. I do really like Lovecraft's writing style, and I really like his ideas. I feel like he's a bit roundabout sometimes. I feel like Lovecraft, I feel like with Lovecraft, my only real issue with his writing is that it feels like he repeats himself a lot. And that gets very tiresome. He'll often write something. He'll write a paragraph describing something, and then he'll do another paragraph describing the same exact thing, and it's like, you didn't need to do this, we already went over this. But he is talented. He is talented. And I'm glad that the situation with his cat has not rendered all of his works, I guess, untouchable or unspeakable. I thought Pippa was illiterate. I'm hella illiterate. Man wrote a whole novel about how he liked cats. That's kind of wholesome. That's kind of wholesome. His contribution to literature overshadows his controversial viewpoints. Stuff doesn't exist in a vacuum, you know? Like, art is always gonna, or often, more often than not, will reflect the culture and time period that it's from. And I think that means some work should be handled with care and caution. And that goes for modern works as well, you know? That's not just like older works like Lovecraft. That's anytime you're reading something, I think you should be conscientious of how the culture surrounding it might have affected its production. For better or worse, you know? That's not always a bad thing. Not always a good thing. And that's just kind of how stuff is, you know? That's my viewpoint on it, and yeah. So please know I did not take pleasure in altering the story. For those of you who are not aware, I think most of you would be. For those of you who are not aware, though, the character I changed the name of was Kitty Man. I called it 𝐴𝐻𝐿 at some points, and it's the name of a cat Lovecraft actually had. And I'm not gonna say the original name. I'm not gonna say the name. You're free to look it up yourself. Just type in Lovecraft's cat and it'll come up. But in order to make this presentable for stream, I did have to alter the original work, and I apologize. Q man, shut up! That was a typo. That was a typo. I tend to think Lovecraft was a man of his time who slowly became better, especially with the fact his viewpoint improved because he married a Jewish woman. I think Lovecraft's problem is he seemed very upset. He's kind of a weeaboo, isn't he? He's kind of a weeaboo, but instead of like being obsessed with Japan, you can very much tell that he's obsessed with like ancient bloodlines, if you catch my drift. Like he's very fixated on the idea of like pure Roman kind of bloodlines. Britable, yeah, he's a Britable. He's a little bit of a, yeah. And you can definitely see that in his works. You can definitely see the heavy idealization. Cats of Ulthar finale. It's short and good. Don't guess it. Thank you for the $5. How long is it? Cats of Ulthar. I'm surprised I managed to burn through this so quickly. Oh, this is quite short. Yeah, I can read this. I can read this as a little finale. Hopefully this does not contain any bad words that'll appear on screen. HP would have voted delete though. Most of it is due to how his mother raised him, considering his childhood wasn't a healthy one if you think about it. I don't know that much of his childhood. Again, I am very much of the belief of death of the author, which, speaking of Lindsay Ellis, you know, we brought up Lindsay Ellis not that long ago, and I think that was a very good video from Lindsay Ellis. I definitely don't agree with a lot of the things that she does or says, but I feel like that was a very good video where she talks about the concept of death of the author and how works are best separated from the original author. And of course you have to realize that like it's a product of this person and there's going to be like a bias of the original people, but It is fine to believe in death of the author. You don't have to, like J.K. Rowling with her retroactive statements regarding lore of her books. You don't have to listen to that. You don't have to listen to that, you know? You don't have to accept it. You don't have to accept it, you know? You can take a book and you can say, yeah, this is the completed work, this is the intended work. Anything afterwards, or anything added in addendum is kinda... it's not part of the specific work, so... Lies, wizards don't need toilets, it's canon. Oh my god. That's what HP stands for? Ah, yes, Harry Potter Lovecraft. JK was just saying things to stay relevant. Yeah, I believe that. I think there are a lot of celebrities like that. A lot of artists like that. Where in order to stay relevant, they latch on to their one successful creation and milk it for all it's worth. And this guy make the printers and stuff, maybe. I agree with Borrego. But you also don't have to believe in death of the author, you know? If you wanna abide by taking everything that the author says, or following like sequel works and everything, and considering that as part of the spirit of the original work, that's understandable. Personally, I don't believe in it. I believe in death of the author. I don't like bringing in outside statements. I don't like bringing in the author themselves into their work. I like just taking their work and enjoying it. Death of the author is just a good stance for art in general. It's a lot less of a headache for both parties. I agree. By Pippa, you only know death of the author by second hand, and a very low quality one. Oh, but Pippa, you only know death of the author. Well, not just relevance, but I think I'm of a need to still feel adored, a sort of side effect of narcissism necessarily present in celebrity. Sometimes learning about the author can help your appreciation of a book. Sometimes. Sometimes knowing the background of something can help. McDougal, thank you for the $5. Thanks for the read along. If you want some fun, spooky stories to read on stream, check out the VN Maeno. It's short and has great music too. I will look it up. I think it depends. Some authors bring their personal lives into their work in huge and obvious ways. You can't really separate those. I think you still can. I think you still can, because even if an author brings a lot of themselves into a story, you only have to take what's in the story for what it is. If you have something like Mommy Dearest, for example, okay? You know Mommy Dearest? That's the story of the girl that, like, her mother is narcissistic and insane and beats her with coat hangers. You can enjoy Mommy Dearest and understand the impact that it had on the author who lived the experience. But you don't necessarily have to take into account like any of the other stuff. Like you don't have to like view it as, how do I word this? I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to... I don't know how to articulate what I'm thinking here. What's a better example of this? It's just a book exists in its own self, you know? A book or a piece of art piece of media, it exists in its own self. And I don't think a greater context is required. Or should be expected. Because I think when you present a piece of media, it is what it is and it exists in that state. And you can make sequels, but that doesn't change that the original work is still the original work. And you can accept that the sequel is a sequel. And you can accept that like tweets about the books are tweets about the books. But I think the original work is still the original work, and that's how it should remain. If that makes sense. Hey Geek, thank you for the $5. While we're recommending stories, A Colder War by Charles Stross is excellent. It's Lovecraftian horror set in the 80s during US-Soviet tensions. Well, I will have to look that up. Thank you, Geek. What about revisions? I suppose that depends. I suppose that depends. Some revisions take out massive chunks of the original story, and I think you could just then consider that like a different version of the story. But the original piece of media will be whatever form it was presented in initially. How do you interpret the original work without his context? Well, if you need outside context in order to interpret the art, then I don't think it's a very good piece of art. Unless it's being targeted at a specific demographic, I think that's where demographics come into play. Denpazon, thank you for the tool, whatever that is. Thank you for the comfy Eldritch stream. You're welcome. Like, so you might have a piece that's about, like... Okay, you can see this in memes, you know? You can see this in memes of all fucking things, right? You see a meme, and it's like a relatable meme, and it's about being like a cat owner. Okay. That's obviously targeted at people who have cats. That is the context that is required going into that meme. And I think that's fine. But I don't think that that piece of media should be also expected to... Like, in order to enjoy that piece of media or to criticize that piece of media, that you should be expected to go out and buy a fucking cat in order to properly appreciate the meme. And that's a very, like, dramatic and also kind of, like, stupid example, but... The author's life and experiences should come after learning and talking in the art, not before and not during. Best example I have for this is Anno and Making Evangelion. Free will is a myth, religion is a joke, well controlled by something greater. Memes, the DNA of the soul. Oh my god. General context really isn't the same as specific author info, and general context is all you should need. I agree with that. Like, if you're reading a book about World War II, it's going to be assumed that you're going to have the general context of World War II. You know, you're going to know a bit about World War II. But to then say, like... Shit, where was I going with this? The language itself is part of its cultural context. If you don't take into account, you can only read contemporary literature. I kind of view it as isolated interpretation from greater context, as their own ideas you can view separately. I read that. There's the work itself. That's basically what it comes down to, in my opinion, is there's the work itself, and you should be able to enjoy the work itself, and read the work itself, and appreciate the work itself, and you should not need any greater context. Yeah, but World War II is probably not a tangent management would enjoy you going on. Yeah, that's kind of why I stopped. What do you think of people judging and calling a book or media awful using modern standards, even though it was made for a different time period and different standard and considered a good work? I don't even think it needs to be considered a good work to still be treated as a product of its own time. And again, that's why I like and believe in death of the author. Because if you abide by death of the author, then you don't need to worry about things like the greater context of the time. You just enjoy the work in itself, and you can find faults in it if you want to find faults in it, and you can just read it and appreciate it for what it is. Instead of getting upset about Kitty Man, you acknowledge that it is a product of its time, and you can get into the debate all you want about H.P. Lovecraft and how product of its time is not a valid argument because, well, just because other people were like that doesn't mean you have to be like that or whatever. But that's why Death of the Author is nice, because it eliminates that argument in regards to the media itself. You can talk all you want about the person. You can talk all you want about the person. But if you're going into a discussion about the rats in the walls, if you go by Death of the Author, then you don't need to have the discussion about the original author. But you need context to understand older works, who uses languages in a different sense. I think having an understanding of the vocabulary or the language used in an older work is different than caring about the author. That's kind of like, you know, like Shakespeare, you know? You don't really need context of who Shakespeare was or anything. If you want to read Shakespeare's works, if you want to read Hamlet, then you just need to understand Elizabethan. It's not about understanding Shakespeare himself. It's about Elizabethan. Like, if you want to understand, like, what's being said. If we had to constantly keep the relationship between art and artist, we could never enjoy music. Music is a tiring one. A piece of literature is to judge on its own merit and quality, only regardless of when it was made. Society's current standards and prejudices should hold no ground on the value of said literature. I completely agree, Javier. I completely agree. I think we understand each other, but the author's beliefs and the person aside would understand the culture that produced it. Really, a lot easier to know about Shakespeare than Elizabethan. Oh, remember all the controversies regarding Michael Jackson? Man, I just want to enjoy good music. Shakespeare basically made up a ton of pompous language for his plays. It's a really strange part of history. I believe that. Kitty Man would make a great isekai protagonist. What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't know, maybe if I had time. I don't have time. What am I thinking? I was gonna say, maybe if I had time, it'd be fun to go into, like, studying literature. I wanted to be a librarian when I was younger at one point, and it'd be kind of fun I guess study classic literature, but I have my hands full. What would I even do with, like, a useless degree like that? American Gothic literature is really good. I agree. No Pippa lore. I've already said that. What if you became a high school English teacher? I would never be able to do that. I'm way too socially anxious. Doing anything historical through a modern lens is absurd. I don't think it's absurd, Lord Vigilator. Lord Vigilator, I don't think it's absurd. I think it's unnecessary in terms of just enjoying a piece of media. You know, I don't think the discussion needs to happen. And to be able to just enjoy stuff, you know? I think if people want to have that discussion of, like, viewing historical literature through a modern lens, I think that can be valuable, you know? There's always stuff to learn. It's good to analyze history, learn from our mistakes, and it can also just be fun, you know? It can be fun to compare the past and the present. But imposing modern ideals on literature that predates them is kinda, in an academic sense, not applying out current paused morals. I find that gross misinterpretations of spirits of the time will ruin a piece of historical fiction. I feel like I feel like there's just kind of this culture of interpreting things maliciously. I don't think, like with Lovecraft, for example, I don't think it was malicious what he was doing. You know, I think he had some ideas and beliefs that are not regarded favorably in modern times. And people want to make others aware of that. But and I don't want to say they're all doing it maliciously. I don't want to say they're all doing it maliciously, but I do think it's become kind of a way for people to boost their own egos. I feel like it's kind of a way for people to boost their own egos, to be like, yeah, the fucking, oh my god, what Lovecraft named his cat, I could never enjoy his works. I could never. You enjoy it? Wow. You know, I feel like that's how some people are. You know, some people use it to, I guess, hold above your head. Reinterpreting gives them power over something famous and is easier than creating something new. I agree with that statement, Brain Lazy, just very generally, but I also personally really enjoy adaptations and remixes of older works. You know? I think it's fun. I think it's tired when Hollywood does it again and again and again for the same shit. Like, I'm very tired of superheroes. I'm very tired of Spider-Man and shit. I'm tired of them taking those comics and being like, how many times can we adapt this and change it slightly? And that gets old. I don't like all these Romeo and Juliet adaptations that have come out either. But I think as a concept it's fun. You know, I like Sherlock Holmes. I'm not really a fan of the Sherlock Holmes books, but I enjoy a lot of the adaptations. I don't think they're necessarily bad, but reported to Albania for wrongthink. Culture is built upon the works of prior generations, extending them and expanding them in new ways relevant to the current generation's lenses, but doing so by killing the past is destructive. I agree, Super Iron Bob. Also, the people who criticize like that tend to have not read the work they are criticizing. I agree, Sopmatsumir. Or they just generally don't like the work and they have nothing to lose by tearing it down. I see that as another common one, is people will like read something and they dislike it, so because they have no emotional investment in it, they're fine with denigrating it. Which I'm guilty of as well. Like, I'm a complete hypocrite with that. I hate Harry Potter, chat. I fucking hate Harry Potter. I think there are some things about it that are enjoyable, but I have nothing to lose in shitting on it And I will continue to do so because I have no emotional attachment. That being said, I also don't expect other people, though, to give up their emotional attachment to it. I think people should abide by death of the author, even with Harry Potter, you know? If you want to enjoy Harry Potter, you know what? There's bigger fish to fry. There is bigger fish to fry. You like Procrastaria's Harry Potter Takedown? I have not seen it. Separate art from artists, because if you don't, you will never enjoy Kanye West, Beatles, H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, etc. Every artist has baggage and shouldn't get in the way of the art and artwork. I agree, Phoenix. Give me. I miss the days where learning to be a wizard was being raised by a grumpy old man in a dusty old tower, and not high school with bathrobes. Spider-Man x Harry Potter is the weirdest fanfic that I have ever read. What the fuck are you reading, Kyle? Art always outlives the artist in its path through life. Just look at Stash Man paintings. They are beautiful. A modern example is not Minecraft. It goes beyond him despite what he believes. I have seen Stash Man's art and I disagree. I don't think it's very good. I don't think he was a very good artist. But I think you can still appreciate it, you know? I think you can still appreciate the art that he did. What do you think about Lord of the Rings? I don't really think much about it. Mustache Man's paintings were very sterile. Sterile? Why did I say that like that? Sterile postcard art. I agree. Guys, I think Pippa forgot she was gonna read another story. Okay, I'm gonna read this. But it's gonna be the end of stream. It'll be the end of stream. Fantasy is not Pippa's genre. Not really. I'm not really a fantasy person, and I'm not really a sci-fi person. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy works from those genres at all. But I just it's not really my fancy, you know? True crime reader? A little bit. I guess so. I really enjoy more psychological and grounded stories. That's not to say that, like, Lord of the Rings isn't grounded or whatever, but I mean, like, I enjoy stories that make me, I guess, potentially reevaluate those around me. Some of my favorite stories are Metamorphosis? Not the manga. I enjoy Metamorphosis. Crime and Punishment. Enjoyed Lolita. Fuck, I'm having trouble thinking of things off the top of my head now. It's been a while since I sat down and like read classic literature outside of stream. And I got rid of my collection quite a while ago. Crime and Punishment is really good. Crime and Punishment is one of my favorites. I know I just said that, but I just really like stories like that. I really like stories like that. I really like stuff that makes you reevaluate the people around you. Evaluate the world around you. The Red Badge of Courage. I read that so long ago. More people should read Lolita objectively. Lolita's a very strange book because it's not what a lot of people think that it is. A lot of people view Lolita... I think a lot of people just haven't fucking read it and they open their mouths about it. Regardless. Lolita is not about... It's not like a romantic tale of an old man and a child. It's a horrifying tale of a perverted man who seeks to control a very troubled young girl. and ultimately ends up destroying both of them. It's a very sad, fucked up story. Humbert isn't portrayed as a good person. Humbert is never portrayed as a good person in that story. Literally, the opening of that fucking book is everyone thinks he's kind of a scumbag, if I remember correctly. Like, if I remember correctly, fucking Lolita's mom, Dolores' mom, is it her aunt or something? I don't remember. But she thinks Humbert's like a complete asshole and everything and doesn't like the guy. Humbert is the main character, but he's not the hero. Exactly. It's a strange dynamic that is not often found in fiction. I really like that. I really like stories that have a, that have an anti-hero. My first encounter with that was Edgar Allan Poe's, shoot, what was that story called? What was that story called where, A Telltale Heart? Is that what it's called? A Telltale Heart, something like that. It's about a man who's slowly going insane because he thinks he hears the sound of a heart in his floorboards. And it's revealed that he's a deceptive narrator and he killed someone and he's losing his mind. And that was like, that story completely warped what I enjoyed in media. Before then, I did enjoy things like fantasy, and I was really into like young adult stuff at that time. You know, like I was big into like Warriors and Guardians of the Wool and no, thank you for the 177. 17701. Oh boy. Cask of Amontillado. I love the Cask of Amontillado. Cask of Amontillado is another fantastic one that I found out later. But yeah, I enjoyed a lot more, I guess, like, I don't want to say childish. I don't want to say childish, but obviously more aimed at children. Makes sense. I was pretty young when I read Telltale Heart. But Unreliable Narrator ruined books for the rabbit. It was just so different and so good. Escapism books, yes, I enjoyed escapism. I enjoyed escapism books. Have you read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath? It's a very good book, I've heard. One of my English teachers gave me that book. He bought me that book and gave it to me. And he was like, I think you will relate heavily to this. And then I read it, and I was like, ah, fuck. Bell Jar is very good. Bell Jar is very good. I tend to enjoy the darker things, be it sci-fi or fantasy. I'm somewhat tired of the good guy always wins and would prefer to see an anti-hero or outright villain win in the story. I'm like that too sometimes, Donald. Sometimes I also like, just fluffy escapism stuff. You know, sometimes you don't have to only like one thing, you know? Have you read Infinite Jest? I have not. You don't have to limit yourself to one genre. Are teachers that actually care about their students actually a thing? I think they're very few and far between, but I've been to a lot of schools, I've encountered a lot of teachers, and I've had a few teachers that genuinely cared about me, I think. I had one teacher that really liked the fact that I was also into birds. And it was so cute. It made me feel so special. At the end of the year, she invented... At the end of the year at this school, they would like give out these awards. And they were like good grades, best performing athlete. And this teacher made like a special award for me, and it felt so fucking good. It felt so fucking good. One of the kids bullied me while I was on stage, and that kind of won the moment a little bit. But the award was like most likely to become a scientist or something like that, or like best scientist or something, you know. And she gave me this little book identification guide for local birds. It was so wholesome. It was so wholesome. I felt so special. In your dog food eating days now! Most likely to become a live streamer. Yeah, that turned out weird. What does that have to do with birds? Get the fuck out of my chat, fish man! She gave me the book about birds. Like, I was super into birds, and I would go above and beyond with my reports and everything. For that class. Like, it'd be like, oh, do a detailed report on some sort of, like, ecological entity. And I would just I would sit there. If it was like a 500-word minimum, I would sit there and I would write out like 5 pages. Like, I did this one huge report on great blue herons. Special award for most special students. Shut the fuck up, James. Was Pippa a horse girl or a wolf girl? I was more of a wolf girl. Horses. Like, I grew up around horses, so they weren't very special to me, you know? Like, I mean, like, I liked them, and they played a big part in my life. But they didn't have, like, that mystical allure, I guess. I just liked horses. So wolves were more like, oh my god, wolves are so mysterious. Oh my god, howl at the moon. Oh my god. You know, it was more like a fancy thing. Have you met the most famous horse on the internet? Mr. Hands. I think Mr. Hands was the guy, wasn't it? Did you own a 3-Wolf Moon shirt? One time, I did not own a 3-Wolf Moon shirt, but Pipkin went away for work somewhere, and he ended up bringing home. This is actually how my obsession with wolves started. He ended up bringing home. It was like a t-shirt, a flashlight, and a stuffed animal. And the flashlight was like a little wolf head. And the t-shirt was like of a wolf. And I was like, oh my god. Oh my god, these are so cool. They're like dogs, but jacked. The 4 horsemen of middle school. Horse girls, wolf girls, dragon boys, car boys. Oh my god. Old car boys or something else. There was a horse guy at my school with an unhealthy obsession. Oh boy. The horse inherited his name after the skewering. Why do you have to word it like that, Sigma? I thought it was a blanket. I guess I remembered it wrong. Was it a blanket? It was a blanket. My memory's fuzzy. And then I remember I got a bandana with a wolf on it. And it was so cool, and I would wear it. But never at school. I would never wear the bandana at school. Imagine being a cowboy. Well, now that reminds me, I remember my teachers feeling bad for me, because not once throughout the year did I get one of those awards, so they literally made one up. It was funny. I was the big dreamer. That's wholesome, Happy Satan. That's wholesome. I went to another school that did awards like that. And it made me so annoyed. It made me so annoyed. Because I would sit there and I would work really hard on stuff. I would work super hard. And I kept getting sick. And I would work so hard. Despite that. And I never got any awards. And they would give awards to, like, the dumbest fucking kids that just didn't try at all. And it's like, man. Is it to motivate them? I don't know. Please, just give me student of the semester. Or student of the session? Semester? What was it called? I don't remember. Just once, goddammit! I managed to go through all school without ever getting a single award. Expectations became too much for me. I feel that. Have I ever seen Beastars? I have seen Beastars, and I think it was actually very good. The horror music works well for school stories. Get no awards, become streamer rabbit, Pippa. I think I've always been doomed to never do anything but content creation. That might sound weird. I've always had so many dreams of so many different things. But I'm so easily demotivated from other stuff, other than content creation, you know? And I don't know why, but content creation is like the one thing that I can sit down and I can keep going back to it, and I can keep trying. And I guess maybe because it's so diverse of a field. I told you guys a story before about how I tried very hard to maintain a perfect GPA. Because I had my heart set on becoming a doctor. Getting into a really good school, becoming a doctor. And having like that prestige and everything, you know? It was mostly about like the respect. I wasn't super passionate about medicine or anything. But I worked very, very hard. I worked very, very hard to maintain a 4.0. And then I had an art teacher that gave me a C on one of my assignments, and it fucked up my GPA. And I just gave up. I just gave up. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck this. That was all it took to push me over the edge. I was like, you know what? No. No. Like, glass cannon, I guess so. It's like, I don't know, it made me feel so powerless. It made me feel so fucking powerless in that moment, because it's like I had worked so hard. I had tried so hard. I had done extra credit wherever possible and everything. And that one fucking assignment was enough to ruin it. It was enough to ruin it. And it's like, I'm sure I could have brought my grade back up with a bunch more work, but it's like, I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. And I'm not gonna fucking bother with it, because it's just gonna happen again. It's just gonna fucking happen again at some point. You know? Because that's just how fucking people are. I mean, in hindsight, I should have stuck to my guns, you know? I should have, instead of letting that discourage me so heavily and giving up on doing well in school in general, I should have let that be like a testament of character. You know? I should have let that have been a testament of character, and I should have pushed through it. But I was just so fucking pissed off by that. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I was just so pissed off. I was so pissed off that because a teacher was a little bit pissed off at me, because I made a teacher a little bit upsetty spaghetti, she could drop my grade like that. She could just drop my grade like that. It didn't matter all the extra work that I did. It didn't matter that I did the assignment a second time how she wanted me to. It didn't matter because I pissed her off and she dropped my grade. Lots of failed character tests in the past. Thing. Or if you're talking about me, then yes. I have not always made very good decisions. I'm mildly scared of the idea of Pippa as a doctor. I would have hated it. If anything, she did me a favor. If anything, she did me a favor. Because I would have been miserable. Content creation is the only thing I enjoy and I've ever enjoyed. And I would not have been happy as a doctor. Thanks for the read-along. I enjoy these literature streams a lot. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for stopping by, Lasm. Thank you for the 333. This works out better. I am a lot happier now than I would have been as a doctor. If you became a doctor, you would have had to deal with the patients. You got lucky. That's true. In an alternate timeline, Pippa's went full yonder and stabbed her art teacher. Oh my god. In our age, effort means nothing. Only how much you're willing to allow yourself to be blackmailed with. Badger Cape, that's incredibly cynical, but you know what? I fucking agree. Not to go doomer, Badger Cape, but I agree. You know, how much effort and earnest care you put into stuff. A lot of the times it doesn't matter, because if you get on somebody's bad side, they can just take it all from you anyways, you know? Like, you can piss somebody off, and they can decide right then, like, oh, I'm gonna make your life a living hell. Or I can just fuck up things for you, however is in my power. And that's just how some people are. Okay, Doomer. But, going Bloomer side, it's up to you to decide how you handle it. And you can always be the better person and try to work through things, you know? You can always come out of it the stronger person. And sometimes you really don't fucking want to, you know? Sometimes you're just like, man, what the fuck? What the fuck? How is this fucking fair? How can this person do this to me, but I'm not legally allowed to smack them upside the head, you know? How is that fair? You'd also have to deal with the enormous amount of college medicine fees in order to become a doctor. This is coming from someone who is studying nursing. Ah, well, good luck, Ito. Wait, I'm the bad guy. I fucking hate that someone. I fucking hate that, right? Somebody pushes you. And then you're expected to be the bigger person. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna fucking try and be the better person, I guess. But I'm not gonna be fucking happy about it. So fucking annoying. So fucking annoying. You know, people fucking push you, man. Don't fight back and defend yourself. No, because then you're the bad person. Then you're the bad person. We've got it. You want us to take care of your art teacher? We hear you loud and clear now, Sigma! Sometimes it's wonderful to be the small person and kick them right in the hojos. Man. Laws are flawed as the one who make them themselves are inherently flawed. Retaliation is justified and base. We should not tolerate people who actively seek to abuse and harm us. God, I am of the belief that it is like I'm very torn. I have very conflicting mindsets in my head of like one side on one hand, you know, it's like you have a responsibility to like your family and everything, you know. You should respect them. You shouldn't talk ill of them. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. You should always extend your hand when they need it. But then on the other hand, like, I think of just how downright malicious some of my family members are and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? No, fuck them. Fuck them. And it applies with people as well, you know? It's like, on one hand, you're supposed to be the bigger person, and you're supposed to be nice to these people, and you're supposed to, you know, take your beatings on the chin and whatever, you know, and it's like, but why should you really? Why should you really, you know? I think it's one thing to have empathy for people and to try and understand like what might make them like this, but on the other hand, why should you have to get pushed around? You know? Just because you're nice to me a few times doesn't mean I should have to be fucking nice back if you're an asshole to me most of the time, you know? Anime document, thank you for the $5. Tolerate what you can, but never overextend, especially your kindness. To those that clearly don't care, but hey, at least you had ambition. Well, thank you. Because retaliation makes you a bad person. I fucking hate that. I fucking hate that. You don't have to do anything. You just have to play whatever social game is being played and win. And I don't fucking understand the social game, you know? I don't understand it. I don't understand the social game. And the best thing I have ever done in life was decide to conduct most of my conversations via text message. Because now with a lot of people, when I'm communicating with them, I've learned that the most powerful thing you can do in a conversation is to literally just use people's words back at them, you know? You don't even have to fucking say anything. One of the best things about text messages is like you can take a screenshot of something that somebody said and you can just post it again. You know? When somebody's like an asshole to you and is like, oh, well I never said that. You just screen cap it and post it again. But you can't do that with regular conversations. Yeah, this is cute. I wish you could do that with regular conversations. With regular conversations, I've kind of just resigned myself that the people that are toxic to me, I'm just gonna act like they're dead the second I'm able to. The second I'm not, I guess, at the mercy of some people, I'm just gonna cut them out, you know? And that's already what I've done with some of my family. When you don't chat, she means us! No! Isn't most of chat toxic to you in a loving way, but still. You know, sometimes oh, Pippa's art teacher, thank you for the $1. Pippa's time traveler told me to give you the C. Ah! What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like with some of my family, you know? Some of my family, it's like I get belittled a bit from some of my family members, like, oh, why can't you just beat about a person, you know? Like, oh, that stuff happened in the past, just let it go. And it's like, I don't know, I have more self-respect than that, I guess. You know? Maybe I am an asshole. Maybe I am an asshole, but I don't care, you know? Like that ant? I've talked about that ant that fucking tried to drown me in the goddamn pool and used to like hang up my stuffed animals and make it look like they commit suicide. You know what? I'm not gonna fucking interact with her. I have her blocked. I'm not gonna put up with her. I'm not gonna talk to her. I'm not gonna wish her any fucking happy holidays or anything. And I get shit for it. And it's like, no. No. Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. I'm gonna fucking treat myself better than that. Do no harm, but take no shit. I agree. That was your aunt? I thought it was your younger cousin. That was my aunt. That's in the past. Then they proceed to bring it up again in the next sentence. I fucking... The people... John Garrison, thank you for the $2. Plus 25 emotional darkness. Heading out on healthy people in general is good. And same thing with chat, you know? Same thing with chat. If you guys were like... I guess genuinely trying to hurt me and stuff, you know? Like, I understand chat is just... Chat isn't one person, it's a bunch of people. And I feel like in general, you guys want the best for me. And I think priority for chat as a whole will be what's most entertaining for them, you know? Like, you guys aren't thinking of my best interest when you want me to say H.P. Lovecraft's cat name, you know? You're looking for the most entertaining thing. But you're not being malicious. You're not being malicious. The bulk of you are very nice people. I stalk your conversations in the Discord. I stalk your conversations elsewhere. You're not malicious. And there might be some, like, malicious people in there. But those are just the people that you just don't acknowledge, you know? You cut them out. You don't necessarily have to block them or whatever, but you just don't let them into the group, you know? Donald Irby, thank you for the $10. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, but sooner would I live in a blind world than one where an individual may be trampled upon by another without retribution, is my addition to it. Donald, that is a very good addition. I like that. Pete-chan, I don't care. Oh. Why is my Yoshi glowing? What's terrifying makes me a little glad I'm too socially inept to converse publicly. What? I don't stalk your guys' profiles, I just stalk the Capitolist channel in the Discord. I think there are some audiences out there that are just genuinely malicious. You know, I think the culture of a chat can err on the side of being malicious. I think like Ice Poseidon is a good example of that. I really relate to Ice Poseidon a lot. For those of you who don't know, Ice Poseidon was a Twitch streamer with Pipkin. Oh. Went down a route I myself probably would have gone down had I not seen him. No, he's not dead. He's just banned off Twitch. He went down a route that I probably would have if I had not seen him go down it. Ice Poseidon basically, he's socially inept. He's socially inept as all hell. And he kind of just let chat and streaming dictate his life. And dictate who he hung out with, and dictate all of his decisions, and I think when you're socially inept, and you're a streamer, it's what you kind of want to do, you know? You kind of want to just listen to chat and go along with it, you know, and let them control you because it feels like the thing to do because you don't really know how to navigate a social space normally. Chat is your society. Kinda. That's kinda what it becomes. And you get so immersed in chat and you get so immersed in streaming and it becomes like your escape from reality to the point that it is your reality. And I feel like that ended up breeding a culture in his chat that was very abusive. I feel like his chat became abusive. You know, they might have been good people, but he let them have this control over his life where it became maybe like an abusive friend, you know? Where they'd push him to do these things and push him, they'd control his relationships and control... basically try to make him unhappy for their own entertainment. Super Iron Bob, thank you for the $5. Navigating parasocial relationships is not a skill set any human is equipped for. It really isn't. And I feel like, especially when you have Pipkin, you know, it's easy to develop a parasocial relationship with chat. Because chat's the only one that's really... it's really like the only group that you fit into. You know? It's like the only people that accept you for you, and you can just be yourself, and they're okay with it, and they like it. And that's weird, because when you're socially inept, you know, you end up with... you end up joining groups and stuff, and you always feel like an outsider, and you always feel like you're struggling to keep up. But it's not like that with chat. yeah, I guess Ice Poseidon kind of served as like a... I guess a warning for me on how to navigate chat somewhat, you know? Would Ice Poseidon have gotten so bad if he hadn't also had Corinne creating drama for him? I think so. Because I think the problem was how he navigated the streaming sphere rather than... like how he navigated chat and his interactions. Social ineptness ends up with you ending up in odd groups. That's true. Pippa made the biggest purge. You were asked to leave the Capippa. What? With social ineptitude and social anxieties that I deal with, I usually go with the fake it till you're comfortable with it. I've never really found myself comfortable with any of it, you know? Even, I always found myself attracted to, like, internet groups and everything. And I always tried to, like, blend in and tried to get along and stuff, and I was never really comfortable with it. I kind of like just being me and doing my own thing, you know, and I like that you can have, I guess, a nuanced opinion on things. Or you can have a diverse array of opinions on things when you're a streamer. You know, like when you have a chat watching you and talking to you, you know, I can say, oh, I love the color red, you know? And I'll get all these people that are also like, oh my god, I also love the color red. And then I can be like, but I hate the color burgundy. And if you're in a group that's all about like the color red, you know? If you're like part of a fan group, like, ah yes, we all love the color red. And you're like, I don't like burgundy. You know, people might be like, you need to get the fuck out of our group. You need to get the fuck out of our group, you know? And I never really knew how to handle that. And maybe I just end up in a lot of very, I guess, extreme circles, but I feel like things in general have gotten extreme lately. And even if you try to avoid certain topics and everything, sometimes, like, I had this happen on chat groups and stuff. You know, where, like, you say something and you don't realize that it's offensive or whatever, and you try to, like, apologize or whatever, but it doesn't matter because people are already mad at you, and now they're like, oh, well, the fact that you could, like, think that at all, well, it's like, oh my god, and you're just sitting there like, I don't even want to talk about this. I came here for stuffed animals. Everything is extreme and polarizing anymore. It's sad. It really is. I don't know. I'm just not good at navigating that stuff. But do your ears get hot inside the hoodie? Well, actually, it's a blanket. Never apologize? It's kind of made me wanna... Or it's kind of made, like, some of my approaches to some groups just try to be as passive as possible. I've become pretty good at... I guess, like, quickly figuring out what the best way to, I guess, get out of trouble is in groups. Apologize if you are sorry. Well, sometimes you just have to apologize just so you get to remain part of a group where you can participate in activities, you know? Agna, thank you for becoming a big PP! Most internet groups act like power-tripping guildmasters. Never join groups, find friends in which you all build your own group. I agree with that. That's definitely better advice. Forgiveness is something I can rarely give out nowadays, simply because once you're burned so many times by the same people, you lose your willingness to try again. That's understandable. If you get in trouble, apologizing only makes things worse. I feel like responding at all makes things worse. I really feel like the best way to go about things is either to not say anything at all, or to be very short about it, you know? Either don't say anything at all, or just be very short about it. Because people will deliberately misinterpret your words if they don't like you. People will twist things, they'll try to paint narratives that aren't there. People are just assholes. You know? People are just assholes. So instead of being like, well, actually, when I said A, I didn't mean B. People will be like, oh, but you still defended me inadvertently, so. And you're just sitting there like, no, thank you for the $1. I'm actually really surprised the Discord server has been... Oh. One moment, where's stream elements? I'm really surprised the Discord server has been so wonderful. I finally have friends I can relate with. Really thankful to Phase Connect for that. Hope I don't mess it up though. No, thank you for the $1. I hope that you guys, especially those of you in the Discord, if there's anything I can impart on you guys and anything that I can ask of you, I guess it would just be that you don't have to agree to get along. You know, you don't have to agree with people to get along. You don't have to like the same games. You don't have to hold the same beliefs. Oh, Denko Stalker, thank you for the $1. If we got rid of all those tea-eating waffle drinkers, there'd be less people to feed. Yeah, and don't take disagreements as personal attacks. I agree with that, Harpter. I agree with that. Having shared values helps immensely, though. It does. It does. But I also feel like it's good to just appreciate other people as human beings, and even if you don't necessarily agree with them, you can support them and care about them as human beings, you know? Which is strangely friendly advice coming from somebody that made fun of like a fanfiction author, but do as I say, not as I do. If we all said the same things and have the same exact thoughts, life would be pretty boring. I agree, but that also doesn't have to be arguments, you know? I feel like some people... I was one of those people, you know, where I felt like you weren't really having a conversation unless you were debating. Unless you were arguing, and it's like, it doesn't need to be an argument. Just have conversations about different stuff. Never forget when you bullied an innocent man out the internet. No! Agree to disagree is a dead sentiment, and the internet has killed it. I don't think it was the internet that killed it. And this free speech is the ultimate forum which ancient philosophers dreamt of. The old internet, an endless forum of any and every idea with endless information from the entire world, all free to say. That still exists. That still exists. I enjoy interacting with friends who have different tastes. It'd be boring if everyone was the exact same. I'm sorry, but if my significant other calls my spamming of Saber eating a hamburger cringe, she gets cut off and the relationship is over. If you're a bully, you end up like Pippa. I bet if the protagonist of the... Oh my god. Wanting arguments for the sake of an argument is just the need for someone's attention, and that's okay. Sometimes we need to be wanted. Damn, Logan. Damn. Having the same morals isn't the same as having the same thoughts. It's easy to befriend people with different thoughts, but near impossible to do so with different morals. I disagree. I disagree. I think it's harder. You know, like, for me, one of the things I feel very strongly about is, like, animal abuse. And that sounds like such an obvious thing, right? But then, I don't quite fit into, like, the vegan crowd and stuff, you know? Because, like, I still hunt Like, I believe in hunting, and I'm not a vegan, and yeah. But I also am on the more sensitive end of, like, I don't believe in, like, boiling lobsters alive. I don't believe in boiling lobsters alive, and I don't believe in, like, kill traps. I don't believe in, like, if you don't have to kill an animal, I don't believe in killing an animal, you know? Like, I don't, like, sticky traps and stuff, I don't believe in those. I think they're very cool. I think if you can safely relocate an animal, I think that's just what you should do. But I also grew up on a farm, and I've had to butcher animals, and I grew up hunting, and I've hunted animals, and I also can live with that. I don't want to call it cognitive dissonance, but I don't think it's one door. Doesn't believe in eating a live octopus either. Yeah, I don't believe in eating animals alive. I think that's entirely unnecessary. You know what makes me mad? People who say animals don't feel pain. I hate that too, man. If you can't eat it, then leave it. I believe in that. Do animals really have rights? Would they respect your rights if the positions were reversed? Mr. Yura, I think animals do have rights, but I also believe humans are a superior life form, and that it kind of comes down to respect, and having respect for life that isn't quite as, I guess, sentient. And just because a cat may kill a mouse, but play with it until it's... like, a cat might torture a mouse needlessly. I think humans are better than cats, and that's why we should not do that and condone that. And then at the same time, I'm also very, I guess, I want to say practical. So I also don't fit in with a lot of groups. Well, I don't fit in with a lot of animal welfare groups that even aren't vegan, because I also believe that, you know what, culling is also necessary sometimes. You know? Like the wild horse population that's destroying the environment. And feral cat populations, you know? If the cats don't belong to anybody and they're fucking murdering the local wildlife, they need to be gotten rid of. And the sad reality is people aren't gonna... there's not gonna be enough homes for them, so you just gotta get rid of them. Like it sucks. But... well, yeah, I have, like, very specific opinions. I have very specific opinions that make it very hard to fit in, I guess, with general circles. And I feel like if you don't have very specific opinions on things, like if you don't have, like, the very set in stone opinions that other people also have, then you're not welcome in a lot of groups. You know, like a lot of cat people, you know, they get very upset. You might love cats and you might be in cat groups and everything and fucking volunteer at humane societies or whatever, but if, like, that conversation comes up, you just have to be quiet. You just have to be quiet. Because otherwise people get upset, you know? Welcome to tribalism, Pippa. Thanks, John. I'm not enjoying my stay. Pips, that's weird. Don't take stuff so personally. It's hard not to, though. It's hard not to take stuff personally. Because when you're in groups and stuff, people will just fucking delete you from them. People will fucking delete you from them if you have if you have an opinion that doesn't fit the mold. Or people will become awkward around you, and it's like, you just gotta not say anything. You just gotta fucking not say anything. You've been deleted from like 6 communities, yeah. you have to ask yourself, are they worth it to begin with? I don't know, I guess it depends on how you define worth it. Part of being human, Pipkin. I respect most animals and insects. I am of the firm opinion that roaches and mosquitoes should be Thanos snapped from existence. Oh my god. Why not just join on a different account? Because I don't care that much. I'm not so desperate to be part of these groups that I will fake my identity to remain part of them. God, I was in this fucking... give us a super controversial take right now. And find out who your real fans are. Anna, thank you for the $1. Controversial? I don't know what to say. I feel like the culling one is already pretty controversial. I guess controversial also depends on the group, you know? Like, I feel like if here I say, you know what? Just love and support people even if you don't agree with them. You know, I feel like that's a pretty lukewarm take here. I feel like that's pretty lukewarm. But then, like, if I said that on Facebook, people would be like, but what about the people that voted wrong? And you're just sitting there like, oh shit. You know, it really depends. It really depends on where you say things. And it's like... Hit the Feral Hog culling stream win! I know, they give us $2. It really depends. The othering is common now. Shut it down. Oh wait, what? The othering is the othering is a common now. Other thing. Fuck. Common now. Fuck. What do you think of people passing an IQ test to be allowed to breed? I don't think IQ plays that big of an impact on people. Because you can have a high IQ and also be a fucking idiot. I have two sides of my brain. I have two sides of my brain. One that says... in an ideal world, people... depending on, like... I don't know. You know what? I don't believe, I guess, in eugenics. I don't believe in it. But I guess what would be controversial to say is that I do believe in, I guess, like, there's this idea of, like, altering DNA in order to eliminate potential bad genetic sequences, you know? And I think that could be good, but you know, then you're also putting too much control in the hands of people that likely shouldn't have that kind of control, you know? Putting a lot of control into people that could turn around and say, okay, well, this thing is bad. And maybe it's not bad. Still reading this, Pippa. HP Lovecraft sucks as a writer. You suck, David! And that's honestly what a lot of my things come down to, is I just don't trust people and I don't trust... I don't trust people to have control. You know? There are a lot of things that'd be nice in theory, but you just can't trust people to not... take it too far, you know? This has a very serious conversation. Well, thank you, default name. Centralization of power means lack of oversight. Not trusting people is truth. That's how I feel about it. All this because of a cat's name. Yeah, Pipkin model. Super and Bob, thank you for the $10. Lovecraft ain't got nothing on the existential horror of the modern society of fostered distrust. I prefer skepticism. I prefer healthy skepticism. That's how I identify. Check Snacks, thank you for becoming a big PP. Alright, I'm gonna read The Cats of Ulthar. It's pretty short. I'm already a little bit over when I planned on ending, and let's go. It is said that in Ulthar, which lies beyond the river sky, no man may kill a cat. And this I can verily believe as I gaze upon him who sitteth purring before the fire. For the cat is cryptic, and close to strange things which men cannot see. He is the soul of antique Egyptus, the bearer of tales from forgotten cities in Moreau and Ophir. He is the kin of the jungle's lords and heir to the secrets of hoary and sinister Africa. The Sphinx is his cousin, and he speaks her language. But he is more ancient than the Sphinx, and remembers that which she hath forgotten. And Ulthar before ever the Burgess forbade the killing of cats. There dwelt an old cotter and his wife, who delighted to trap and slay cats of their neighbors. Why they did this I know not, save that many hate the voice of the cat in the night, and take it ill that cats should run stealthily about yards and gardens at twilight. But whatever the reason, this old man and woman took pleasure in trapping and slaying every cat which came near to their hovel. And from some of the sounds heard after dark, many villagers fancied that the manner of slaying was exceedingly peculiar. But that villagers did not discuss such things with the old man and his wife, because of the habitual expression on the withered faces of the two, and because their cottage was so small and so darkly hidden under spreading oaks at the back of a neglected yard. In truth, much as the owners of the cats hated these odd folk, they feared them more, and instead of berating them as brutal assassins, merely took care that no cherished pet or mouser should stray toward the remote hovel under the dark trees. When through some unavoidable oversight a cat was missed, in sounds heard after dark, the loser would lament impotently, or console himself by thanking fate that it was not one of his children who had thus vanished. For the people of Ulthar were simple, and knew not whence it is all cats first came. One day a caravan of strange wanderers from the south entered the narrow cobbled streets of Ulthar. Dark wanderers they were, and unlike the other roving folk who passed through the village twice every year, in the marketplace they told fortunes for silvers, and bought gay beads from the merchants. What was the land of these wanderers none could tell, but it was seen that they were given to strange prayers, and that they had painted on the sides of their wagons strange figures with human bodies and the heads of cats, hawks, rams, and lions. And the leader of the caravan wore a headdress with 2 horns and a curious disc betwixt the horns. There was in this singular caravan a little boy with no father or mother, but only a tiny black kitten to cherish. The plague had not been kind to him, yet had left him this small, furry thing to mitigate his sorrow. And when one is very young, one can find great relief in the lively antics of a black kitten. Though the boy whom the dark people called Mins smiled more often than he wept as he sat playing with his graceful kitten on the steps of an oddly painted wagon. On the 3rd morning of the wanderer's stay in Ulthar, Mins could not find his kitten, and as he sobbed aloud in the marketplace, certain villagers told him of the old man and his wife, and of sounds heard in the night. And when he heard these things, his sobbing gave place to meditation, and finally to prayer. He stretched out his arms toward the sun and prayed in a tongue no villager could understand, though indeed the villagers did not try very hard to understand, since their attention was mostly taken up by the sky and the odd shapes the clouds were assuming. It was very peculiar, but as the little boy uttered his petition there seemed to form overhead the shadowy, nebulous figures of exotic things. of hybrid creatures crowned with horn-flaked discs. Nature is full of such illusions to impress the imaginative. That night the wanderers left Ulthar and were never seen again, and the householders were troubled when they noticed that in all the village there was not a cat to be found. From each hearth the familiar cat had vanished. Cats large and small, black, grey, striped, yellow, and white. Old Cranon, the burgomaster, swore that the dark folk had taken the cats away in revenge for the killing of men's kitten, and cursed the caravan and the little boy. But Nith, the lean notary, declared that the old cotter and his wife were more likely persons to suspect, for their hatred of cats was notorious and increasingly bold. Still, no one durst complain to the sinister couple, even when little Adel, the innkeeper's son, vowed that he had at twilight seen all the cats of Ulthar in that accursed yard under the trees, pacing very slowly and solemnly in a circle around the cottage, two abreast as if in performance of some unheard-of rite of beasts. The villagers did not know how much to believe from so small a boy, and though they feared that the evil pair had charmed the cats to their death, they preferred not to chide the old cotter till they met him outside his dark and repellent yard. So Ulthar went to sleep in vain anger, and when the people awakened at dawn, behold! Every cat was back at his accustomed hearth. Large and small, black, grey, striped, yellow, and white. None was missing. Very sleek and fat did the cats appear, and sonorous with purring content. The citizens talked with one another of the affair, and marvelled not a little. Old Cranon again insisted that it was the dark folk who had taken them, since cats did not return alive from the cottage of the ancient man and his wife. But all agreed on one thing, that the refusal of all cats to eat their portions of meat or drink their saucers of milk was exceedingly curious, and for 2 whole days the sleek, lazy cats of Ulthar would touch no food, but only dozed by the fire or in the sun. It was fully a week before the villagers noticed that no lights were appearing at dusk in the old windows of the cottage under the trees. Then the lean Nith remarked that no one had seen the old man or his wife since the night the cats were away. And in another week the burgomaster decided to overcome his fears and call at the strangely silent dwelling as a matter of duty. Though in doing so he was careful to take with him Shang the blacksmith and Thul the cutter of stone as witnesses. And when they had broken down the frail door they found only this: 2 cleanly picked human skeletons on the earthen floor, and a number of singular beetles crawling in the shadowy corners. There was subsequently much talk among the burgesses of Ulthar. Zath the coroner disputed at length with Nith the lean notary, and Cranon and Shang and Thul were overwhelmed with questions. Even little Adel, the innkeeper's son, was closely questioned and given a sweetmeat as reward. They talked of the old cotter and his wife, of the caravan of dark wanderers, of small Mings and his black kitten, of the prayers of Mins and the sky during that prayer, of the doings of the cats on the night the caravan left, and of what was later found in the cottage under the dark trees in the repellent yard. And in the end the burgesses passed the remarkable law, which is told of by traders in Hathik and discussed by travellers in Mir, namely, that in Ulthar no man may kill a cat. I like Ulthar. Man, Lovecraft really fucking liked cats. Those cats fucking ate him. Jesus Christ. Alright. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I am gonna read off some names now. And I'm gonna go through the participants list rather than reading directly from chat. And it's kind of strange because it looks like as you type, more names appear. That's very strange. I'm gonna give you guys a second to type in chat, and then I'm gonna read off some names. No name, Amon, Aegis, Animate Acumen, Archive Bro, Asoiru, Alamau, Badger Cape, Beef Pie, Belphegor, Ben Turner, Bit Samui, Bok, Bored Undead, Brian Lane, Cannon Fodder, Check Snacks, Cheese, Convery, Crab Supremacy Advocate, Dan Scrub, David Flores, Deadmac Gaming, Dick Dickerson, Oh, another name just popped up. Dire Singer, Donald Arby, Dr. Toesucker, Andor, Firebrand, Frank Cabano, Freedom Extremist, Freeze, Fruitcakes, Gabri, Gosshog, GK Lark, Grant, Grinskull, Wanako, Hastari, Hikimoto, Ho Ho Homo, Hunk Des, James, Javier Enriquez, Jill710, John Garrison, John Smith, Judah Boyd, Connie B, Carlos Alvarez, Killer King, Krampus, Logan, Lol, you took him to the bar? Lutz Mason, Lieutenant VZ, Machiavelli, Magopado, Manowars, Max Capacitor, Mick Tagoo, Mr. Chewy, Mr. Yura, Michelle, Mitchell Batter, MJC, Mr. Mannequin, Mr. eBear, Mr. Car Guy, Neelan, No, Nix Eternus, OP, Odwin, Ozone, Phoenix Gaming, Phoenix Slayer, ReNPC, Richard Returns, Ragnar, Ridian, Scales Tipper, Secret Seeker, Say So Cause I Say So, Sophomore Senior, Fighter Dude, Super Iron Bob, Tenma Respector, Dow Twist, The Justed One, The Sword Art Online, Dick Riding Association, The Cyber Police, Skinakaji, Vash, Vilko, Web M Aristocrat, White Mage, Woma, X, Zenmar, XYZ, Zero, Blank. And if I missed your name, feel free to type in chat and I will say your name as well. Liger, Cypher, Bushwhacker, Phoenix Gaming, Cahiento Amos, Endor, Nicholas Soul, Mr. Chewy. If I missed your names, I'm so sorry. The YouTube still recognizes me as a viewer despite having ad block. Interesting. I think it recognizes anybody that types in chat. If you type in chat, I think you're safe. Puddleton, Denpazone, Crazy Fellas, Rex Arada, Odwin, Astos, Aegis. Well, yeah. Thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If I missed your name, I'm so sorry. And I hope you all sleep well. Look at that. I saved my tangents for after. I saved my tangents for after. Ubisoft tomorrow. Oh god, I forgot I was supposed to log into Ubisoft early. Oh no. I did not do my reps. I was supposed to log into Ubisoft a little bit early. I'll log in like earlier in the day. I'll migrate myself over to Face Village. I've been so busy, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna go pass out. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Drink water. Get sleep. And be nice to people. Agree to disagree. Good night.